Chapter 2665. Brother Qin, you're here too. Blood 6 smiled at Qin Feiyang. Yes. Qin Feiyang nodded with a smile and asked, how is it? They're all over there. Blood 6 pointed to the other side of the giant mountain. Qin Feiyang leaped to the top of the mountain and walked to the other side, looking down. He saw Yizhong, the chief pavilion master, the beast emperor, and the 8 ancestral dragons sitting cross-legged on the ground with their eyes closed. Have they always been like this? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Blood 6 said secretly. The 10 commanders didn't jump to the top of the mountain. Because their bodies were too big, they were easily discovered by Yizhong and the others. They came all the way to Fallen Valley and didn't think of a way to go in. What's the meaning of this? Qin Feiyang frowned. Since they didn't have the guts to go in, they might as well leave. Wasn't this a waste of time? A few days ago I seem to have vaguely heard them talking about lunatic. Blood 6 said telepathically. What? They talked about senior brother lunatic? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Yes. But they were very quiet. I didn't hear what they were talking about. Blood 6 said secretly. That's strange. Qin Feiyang murmured. Why did they talk about senior brother lunatic? After pondering for a while, Qin Feiyang retreated to Shweta and the others and said, You've worked hard for so long. Go to the ancient city and rest. Leave the rest to me. The ancient city? Blood 2 and the others were stunned. Shweta said secretly, We've also brought the ancient city. What? Blood 2 and the others were stunned. Shweta said again, The Ghost King is also here. He's now in the ancient city. It can't be. Does the Ghost King also want to enter Fallen Valley? Blood 2 was surprised. Yes. Shweta nodded. This is too crazy. Blood 2 and the others looked at each other. Qin Feiyang and Shweta smiled at each other. After that, Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent Shweta and the others to the ancient city of Qingyu. In the meantime, Madman was also taken out from the ancient Qingyu city. What are you doing? Madman frowned. Qin Feiyang secretly laughed and said, Your master is down there, don't you want to go and see him? Master? Madman jumped to the top of the mountain and looked down. He pursed his lips and said, I'm going to cultivate. I don't have time to see him. Don't. I don't have the confidence to face them alone. Help me share the burden. Qin Feiyang thought. Bullshit. You can even crush these 2 idiots. Madman frowned as he pointed at the black-clothed middle-aged man. Please consider our feelings, okay? The 2 middle-aged men's faces darkened. Calling them idiots in front of their faces? Was there such a person? The madman glanced at the 2 of them and said indifferently, Sorry. I'll be more careful next time. Next time? The 2 of them were speechless. He really didn't put them in his eyes at all. But then Qin Feiyang's words made them even more depressed. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, Yizhong and the Beast Emperor have both mastered the power of law. The strength of the Chief Pavilion Master, and the various ancestral dragons is also unfathomable. How can they compare? The 2 of them were in a terrible mood that couldn't be described with words. Could he not compare them? Seems like it. Madman thought for a while and nodded. Right? Qin Feiyang suddenly looked at the 2 middle-aged men and asked, Did the Chief Pavilion Master comprehend the power of law? Yes. But not many people know about it. The 2 of them nodded. This? Qin Feiyang and the madman looked at each other with a trace of shock in their eyes. He asked in a low voice, What kind of law did she comprehend? The law of water. The black-clothed middle-aged man said. Amazing. Qin Feiyang muttered and looked at the madman. See, 3 people with the power of law. How do you want me to face them alone? Since we are brothers, we must be loyal to each other. We should share blessings and hardships together. The madman waved his hand and said helplessly, Okay, I will go with you. Qin Feiyang chuckled. With the madman's help, he didn't have to worry too much. Because the madman's strength was also extremely terrifying. And the madman also said last time that he wanted to go into seclusion to improve the level of his divine art. And in these 3 months with his comprehension and potential, he would definitely be able to do it. After all, 1 day was 500 years. 3 months, that was tens of thousands of years. Huff. Qin Feiyang took a deep breath and looked at the 2 middle-aged men in black. Do you still remember what I told you on the way? And the two of them nodded. Then be careful later, don't reveal any flaws. Qin Feiyong reminded them, and then took an awakening elixir and changed back to Li Buer's appearance. The middle-aged man in black and the old man in cyan also took an illusion elixir and turned into two unfamiliar faces. Although the dragons didn't know the identities of the Chief Pavilion Master and the Beast Emperor, they knew the 8 divine emperors of the Dragon Slayer Temple like the back of their hands. Therefore, they definitely couldn't meet Yizhong and the others with their real faces. Let's go. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the 4 of them immediately rose into the air and pretended to fly toward the fallen valley. Someone's there? Yizhong suddenly opened his eyes and looked up. A trace of joy appeared in his eyes. Look, it's Li Buer and the madman. And the Chief Pavilion Master, the Beast Emperor, and the ancestral dragons all opened their eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong and the others in the sky. Like Yizhong, the ancestral dragons' faces were immediately filled with joy. But the Chief Pavilion Master and the Beast Emperor's eyes flashed with murderous intent. Master! Qin Feiyong and the madman also pretended to be stunned. They stopped in the void above and looked down at Yizhong and the others. I finally found you. Then, the two of them flew toward Yizhong and the others happily. Good. You're not dead. Yizhong nodded with relief. What's so good about it? I don't even know how many times I've been to the gates of hell over the years. Master, you're really something. You didn't even tell us in advance about such an important thing like teleporting. Qin Feiyong complained. Yizhong was originally very happy, but when he heard Qin Feiyong's words, he remembered the scene of Qin Feiyong leading the madman into the Nether King's hell. He immediately became angry. I haven't settled the score with you yet, and you still have the cheek to complain? Otherwise, you would have been too impulsive and lost us, Yizhong said angrily. Qin Feiyong's expression stiffened, and he said with an embarrassed smile, I was a little impulsive when I saw the Nether King's hell appear. Impulsiveness is the devil. Haven't you heard of this? The more Yizhong thought about it, the angrier he became. Qin Feiyong lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong. Old man Yi, that's enough. It's good that he's fine. Why are you still blaming him? The black-clothed ancestor dragon was speechless. Yizhong snorted coldly. I can't wait for him to die in the Nether King's hell. You're stubborn. The black-clothed ancestor dragon rolled his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyong with a smile. Don't be fooled by your master's current behavior. He has been worried about you all these years. Really? Qin Feiyong asked. Why would I lie to a junior like you? The black-clothed ancestor dragon was displeased. Qin Feiyong scratched his head and looked at Yizhong. Master, don't tell me you're the legendary sharp-tongued but soft-hearted person. Scram. Yizhong glared at him fiercely. Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. I really don't want to ruin the joy of your reunion, but there is a problem that I think I should clarify. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Yizhong and the other ancestor dragons turned to look at the Chief Pavilion Master, because the person who spoke was her. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other, and also looked at the Chief Pavilion Master with a sneer in their eyes. Was he going to start making things difficult for them? The Chief Pavilion Master looked at Madman and said, I'm very curious, how did you escape from the hands of the Nether King? Yizhong and the others were slightly stunned when they heard this. That's right. Back then, Madman was caught by the Nether King. In an instant, everyone looked at Madman, their eyes filled with doubt. Everyone present should be clear about the strength of the Nether King. With Madman's little cultivation, how could he escape from his hands? The Chief Pavilion Master sneered. But when he said the word cultivation, the Chief Pavilion Master's pupils suddenly shrank as he looked at Madman in surprise. It was actually the small success 9th Heaven Realm. Following that, the Chief Pavilion Master looked at Qin Feiyong and found that Qin Feiyong was also at the small success 9th Heaven Realm. How could he be so fast? The Chief Pavilion Master immediately shouted, What's going on with your cultivation? In just a short 100 years you broke through so many small realms in succession? Yizhong and the others also noticed the changes in their cultivation, and they were all in disbelief. Qin Feiyong had already thought of an excuse. He looked at the Chief Pavilion Master and said indifferently, half a year ago, We accidentally obtained an opportunity. It was this opportunity that allowed us to break through to the small success ninth heaven realm. Opportunity? I'd like to know what kind of opportunity allowed you to break through so many realms in succession. The chief pavilion master sneered. Are you going to fight until the end? Qin Feiyong raised his eyebrows imperceptibly. He chuckled and said, in the underworld king's hell, regardless of whether it is divine items or fortuitous encounters, there are countless of them. If you do not know, that is because you are ignorant. You did not encounter any, but that does not mean that there are none. How dare you? The chief pavilion master was enraged. Cough cough. Yi Zhong coughed and said, Li Bu-er, she's the chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion. You can't be so rude. Qin Feiyong said in shock. So it's the chief pavilion master. Sorry for the disrespect. Humph. The chief pavilion master snorted. The changes in our cultivation are indeed related to that opportunity. They were there too. Madman pointed at Wang Ming and Li Bu-er and said. Yi Zhong and the others finally noticed Wang Ming and Li Bu-er and asked suspiciously, who are they? They're also from the north region. They were the ones who helped us when we were in danger. Seeing that their cultivation was good, I let them travel with us. It's good that we can take care of each other. Qin Feiyong said with a smile. Greetings, Chief Pavilion Master Yi. Greetings, ancestral dragons. Wang Ming and Li Bu hurriedly bowed. Yi Zhong and the ancestral dragons nodded. The Beast Emperor, who had been silent all this time, asked, what kind of opportunity was it? At that time we were chased by ferocious beasts and fled deep into the mountains. Then we found a very old cave. We didn't think much at that time. We just wanted to enter the cave to avoid the pursuit of the ferocious beasts. But when we entered the cave, we found that there was a seal on the cave and we couldn't enter. After that, we avoided the pursuit of the ferocious beasts and tried everything to break the seal. When we entered the cave, we found a small tree that we had never seen before. There were 2 godly fruits on the tree. The changes in our cultivation were because we ate these 2 fruits. Qin Feiyong said. What kind of godly fruit can actually help you break through so many realms? Yi Zhong was surprised. Qin Feiyong waved his hand and casually condensed a fruit. The fruit was blood red and was the size of a palm. The shadows of a blood phoenix and a blood dragon lingered around it, looking quite magical. Anyway, it was made up and didn't need to be real. Chapter 2666. Never seen it before. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon shook his head. This sovereign has never seen it before either. The other ancestral dragons also shook their heads. Madman secretly despised them. This was made up by Qin Feiyong. It would be strange if you guys had seen it before. We don't know what this is either, but its power is really heaven-defying. Qin Feiyong said. Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons looked at each other without any doubts. First of all, because in their opinion, Qin Feiyong and Madman wouldn't lie to them. After all, Qin Feiyong was Yi Zhong's disciple and Madman was Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon's disciple. Secondly, the Nether King's hell was mysterious and even had heaven-defying divine objects. Furthermore, there were more than 1 or 2 of them, so it wasn't strange for there to be such a magical fruit. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon looked at Madman and said. Then back to the topic, how did you escape from King Yu? Madman sighed. This is a long story. Chief Pavilion Master said. It doesn't matter, we have plenty of time, take your time. Madman frowned. Targeting him once or twice should be enough, right? Again? Interesting. The dignified Chief Pavilion Master of the Treasure Pavilion only had such methods? Chief Pavilion Master said, speak, I'll see how you make it up. My bad temper. Madman was instantly enraged and shouted. Did I dig your ancestral grave? Or did I kidnap your daughter and sell her to a brothel? You've been targeting me time and time again? Bastard. Chief Pavilion Master was also furious. Cough cough. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon coughed dryly and looked at Madman. Kid, what are you talking about? I already told you, she's the Chief Pavilion Master. You have to be polite. I want to be polite to her, but she doesn't realize it. What can I do? Madman snorted coldly. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon smiled and turned to look at the Chief Pavilion Master. I don't quite understand what you're saying. Madman hasn't even said it yet. And you're saying that he's making it up? Aren't you deliberately making him look bad? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon God looked a little displeased. That's right. If I've offended you, just say it. Don't jump around like a clown. Madman said. Cough cough. It's getting more and more ridiculous. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon glared at Madman with a dark expression. How could a clown be used to describe the dignified Chief Pavilion Master? What a blabbermouth. Boom. The Chief Pavilion Master was furious. A terrifying pressure rolled towards the madman. Ancestral Dragon raised his eyebrows. He stared at the Chief Pavilion Master and said, I don't think that's necessary. However, before Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon could finish his sentence, another aura erupted. Ancestral Dragon was stunned and turned to look at Madman. You wanna fight? Alright. I've long found you an eyesore. Madman ignored the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon and shouted at the Chief Pavilion Master. His eyes flickered with ruthlessness. Did you see that? Did you see that? You have no respect for your elders and are lawless. If I don't teach you a lesson today, you won't know what's good for you. The Chief Pavilion Master trembled with anger. Cut the crap. Madman roared. Boom. The Blood Devil domain opened. A blood-red barrier instantly enveloped the Chief Pavilion Master. The Chief Pavilion Master's Peak 9 Heavens Realm cultivation base began to plummet. Peak 9 Heavens Realm. Greater 9 Heavens Realm. Lesser 9 Heavens Realm. Initial 9 Heavens Realm. Finally, the Chief Pavilion Master's cultivation base actually fell to half-step 9 Heavens Realm. This is too exaggerated. Qin Feiyang was shocked. It was obvious that the madman had raised the Blood Devil art to the supreme level, and this Blood Devil domain could only strip off 4 small realms before, but now it could strip off 5 small realms. Such a heaven-defying ability, even if it was the Chief Pavilion Master, he could only be beaten up. This sudden change was not only out of Qin Feiyang's expectations. Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons were also shocked. As for the Chief Pavilion Master, he was caught off guard. Madman rushed in front of the Chief Pavilion Master. Before the Chief Pavilion Master could react, he immediately gave him a slap. Pa! The crisp sound of a slap was heard. The Chief Pavilion Master also flew out on the spot and smashed into the ground with a bang. He looked extremely miserable. Yi Zhong and the others were dumbfounded. As expected of the madman, he even dared to hit the Chief Pavilion Master? Most importantly, he even slapped his face. After all, what an expert at this level hated the most was being slapped in the face. Especially being slapped in front of so many people. For such an expert, it was a great humiliation. Little bastard, I'm going to kill you. The Chief Pavilion Master was also stunned. When he came back to his senses, he immediately roared and suddenly stood up. A wave of water rolled out. Not good. It's the law of water. Wang Ming and the other ancestral dragon's pupils shrank as they shouted. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked. The madman narrowed his eyes slightly. Not only was he not afraid at all, he even had the urge to give it a try. Boom! And it was also at this moment. Yi Zhong waved his hand, and a flame surged out and blasted at the wave of water. This was also the power of law. The law of fire. The 2 powers of law collided with a loud bang, and the 4 giant peaks immediately collapsed. Everyone rose into the air one after another. Yi Zhong looked at the Chief Pavilion Master and said with a smile, Why bother with a junior? You're blaming me? The anger in the Chief Pavilion Master's heart instantly flared up. Yi Zhong shouted, Madman, hurry up and apologize to the Chief Pavilion Master. Apologize to her? Why should I? Don't stop me, watch how I deal with her today. Does she really think she can go to heaven? The madman rolled up his sleeves and was ready to fight. But just as he finished speaking, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon took a step forward and knocked the madman on the head. What? The madman glared at Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon. I think you're the one who wants to go to heaven. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said angrily. The madman rubbed his head, his face full of grievance. Why aren't you apologizing? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. The madman pursed his lips, looked at the Chief Pavilion Master, and said indifferently, "Old witch, I'm sorry, I hit a little too hard. I will be careful next time." Next time? The chief pavilion master's body trembled from anger. What kind of apology was this? Where was the sincerity? Rather than an apology, it was better to humiliate her again. Yizhong smiled and said, "Since he has already apologized, you should be magnanimous and don't bother about it." "Yes. He is my disciple after all. As my disciple, he is naturally a member of the dragons." Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. These words were already a naked threat. If you touch him, you are not giving face to the dragons. If you don't give face to the dragons, then it will be difficult for your treasure pavilion to establish a foothold in the ancient realm. The chief pavilion master looked at the three of them with a gloomy expression. "Okay, I will not bother with him for your sake, but if there is a next time, then don't blame me for being merciless." The chief pavilion master finally compromised. Because she had to compromise. Now she only had one ally, and that was the Beast Emperor. And the Beast Emperor had infiltrated the dragons with great difficulty. When he gained the trust of the dragons, he would definitely not expose his identity easily. Therefore, she was equivalent to being alone. How could one person fight with Chairman Yi and the others? Taking a step back. Even if the Beast Emperor helped her, she and the Beast Emperor would not be able to fight against Chairman Yi and the various ancestral dragons. Therefore, she could only choose to swallow her anger. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon smiled slightly and turned to look at Frenzy. "Tell me then. It's all thanks to my cleverness that I was able to escape," Frenzy said. "Don't be so smug." Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's face darkened. "I'm not. The truth. At that time, King Yu did want to kill me, but I had an idea and told him that I was your disciple." King Yu was stunned. "I didn't expect that I was actually your disciple. Then I told King Yu that it's useless to kill me. Why not keep me alive? Master will definitely come to save me in the future. By then you can use me to threaten him, right?" King Yu thought about it and felt that it made sense. "So, he imprisoned me in the ancient King Yu city. But am I the kind of person who will sit and wait for death? Of course not." Then one day, someone suddenly came to the ancient King Yu city. Guess who he is? "You definitely won't be able to guess that this person is Qin Feiyang," Frenzy said. Yizhong said, "We know that Qin Feiyang is in the ancient King Yu city." "How did you know?" Frenzy was surprised. "Not long after you were captured, I returned to the giant Dragon Mountain range and waited for the princess and the rest. It was also at that time that I met Qin Feiyang. At that time he was with King Yu and the 10 commanders," Yizhong said. "So that's the case." Frenzy was enlightened. "Continue," Yizhong said. "I wonder how this Qin Feiyang managed to convince King Yu?" King Yu actually sent all the 9 Heavens Realm experts to the various ancient cities to collect blood. Frenzy sighed. "Collect blood?" Yizhong and the various ancestral dragons frowned. Ancestral Dragon asked, "Why did he ask the blood demons to collect blood? Could it be that he wants to activate the slaughter zone?" "I don't know. However, it's definitely impossible to activate the slaughter zone. After all, there are rules and restrictions here." Frenzy shook his head. "It's really strange," Yizhong mumbled. "Also, I heard the princess's voice." Frenzy said, "Princess." The various ancestral dragons were bewildered. Not only the princess but also the dragon god." Frenzy nodded. "It can't be. The dragon god is back." Everyone was bewildered. "At that time I was imprisoned and only heard their voices. I didn't see them with my own eyes. However, the dragon god seemed to have made a move on Qin Feiyang, and I seized this opportunity to escape amidst the chaos," Frenzy said. Ancestral Dragon asked, "Then, did the dragon god kill Qin Feiyang?" "I don't know about this." Frenzy shook his head. "Since the dragon god is here, why are you still trying to escape? Just go and find the dragon god." Ancestral Dragon said, "The dragon god doesn't know that I'm your disciple. What if he treats me as Qin Feiyang's accomplice? Then wouldn't I be wronged to death?" Frenzy said. Ancestral Dragon stared at him speechlessly. But thinking about it, only the people present knew that he accepted Frenzy as his disciple. Even the princess didn't know about it. If Frenzy were to appear, The dragon god might really treat him as Qin Feiyong's accomplice. Since the dragon god personally made a move, Qin Feiyong is definitely dead. The white-clothed woman smiled. That's right. To be able to get rid of this disaster, that's really a great thing. It's a pity that I didn't kill him personally. The blood-clothed youth sneered. You need to have the ability to do so. Frenzy secretly sneered. Qin Feiyong, who was standing at the side, also had a trace of killing intent in his eyes. Chapter 2667. After hearing Madman's words, Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons didn't doubt him, because Madman mentioned the dragon god. In their hearts, the dragon god was an omnipotent existence. Since the dragon god had personally appeared, then there was definitely no problem. However, the chief pavilion master and beast emperor sneered in their hearts. A group of idiots fooled by two immature brats. When the time comes, you will cry. They knew Qin Feiyong's true identity, so they naturally knew that this was definitely made up by Qin Feiyong and Madman. But they didn't know. The appearance of the dragon god was indeed true. Then how did you find Fallen Valley? Yi Zhong asked with a smile. It was Madman's suggestion. He said that when he was in the giant dragon mountain range, he heard you mention Fallen Valley more than once, so he came to try his luck. I didn't expect to really meet you. Qin Feiyong laughed. Good. You can even think of this as expected of our disciple. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon laughed proudly. Yi Zhong said, don't praise them. Be careful that their tails don't reach the sky. You still don't believe me when I say you are a stubborn old man? Young man, when it's time to praise, then praise, only then can you encourage them. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. Yi Zhong rolled his eyes and asked, since Madman is here, then can we prepare to enter Fallen Valley? Yes, we have to start preparing. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon nodded. Wait. Madman hurriedly reached out and interrupted the two, frowning. What does your entering Fallen Valley have to do with me? You don't know. There are two biggest threats in Fallen Valley. One of them is the evil power. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. That's right. Even the blood demon race can't absorb the evil power of Fallen Valley. If you stay inside for too long, even the blood demon race will have their soul corroded by the evil power. Yi Zhong nodded. Even the blood demons can't absorb it? Madman and Qin Feiyong were shocked. To the blood devils, the evil power was like vital essence that could increase their cultivation. But now, the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon was telling them that the blood demon race couldn't absorb the evil power here. This was too unbelievable. Yes, we once saw a few blood devils charge into Fallen Valley. They all have the cultivation of the Nine Heavens realm. But in the end, they turned into blood puppets in less than an hour. Yi Zhong said, his eyes filled with fear. Blood puppet? Qin Feiyong and Qin Feng were stunned. The blood puppets are another big threat to Fallen Valley. The Fallen Valley is different from other places. The evil energy here has a mysterious power. Whether it is humans, blood demons, dragons, or ferocious beasts, after their souls are eroded by this evil power, they will all become puppets. And after becoming a puppet, they will no longer have their previous memories, only killing. Yi Zhong said. This is too scary. Madman swallowed his saliva and said, let's not go. Scary is scary. But you are different. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon smiled. I am also a human. How am I different from you? Madman said. You can absorb the evil power. And you can enter the moon of evil. Think about it, you can even enter the moon of evil. Then entering Fallen Valley will definitely not be a problem. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said. So this is the reason why you accepted me as your disciple? You want to use me to enter Fallen Valley? Madman frowned. Cough cough. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon coughed and said angrily, who talks to their master like this? Am I not? Back then when I fell into the hands of the Dark King and asked you for help, what did you say? You told me to pray for myself. What? Now that I have escaped alive, you want me to bring you to Fallen Valley? Wishful thinking. Madman snorted. You have to understand your master. After all, the Dark King is too strong. If I went to save you back then, both of us would have died. Besides you being able to escape, isn't it also thanks to me? The black dragon ancestral Gragon smiled, but his smile was very awkward. You also have a contribution? Wait. What does this have to do with you? Madman looked at him suspiciously. You just said that because you said you are my disciple. The Dark King didn't kill you. Although there is no direct connection, it can be considered an indirect contribution. The black dragon ancestral Gragon said. Madman looked at the black dragon ancestral Gragon in shock. Looking at Madman's eyes, no matter how thick-skinned the black dragon ancestral Gragon was, he couldn't help but blush. Then, let bygones be bygones. Let's hurry to Fallen Valley. If we are lucky, we might really get 1 or 2 divine items. Qin Feiyong stood out to smooth things over. Yes. The black dragon ancestral Gragon nodded. Okay, but I have a condition, Madman said. The black dragon ancestral Gragon said. Not to mention one condition, even 10 or 100 will do. Madman said. When we enter Fallen Valley, the first divine item we get must be mine. This. The black dragon ancestral Gragon hesitated. Yizhong smiled, of course, because this is what you deserve. Old Yiyu, the black dragon ancestral Gragon looked at Yizhong with dissatisfaction. After being together for so long, you still don't know this madman's temper? If we don't agree, even if you put a knife to his neck, it will be useless. Let's talk about it later. He is your disciple. What's the difference between giving him the divine item and giving it to you? Yizhong thought. The black dragon ancestral Gragon was stunned and transmitted his voice with a smile. That makes sense. You are still the cunning one. Cunning. Yizhong was speechless. He looked at Madman and said, Then let's go. This is what we agreed on. When we really encounter the divine item later, don't go crazy. Madman said. Who do you think we are? We will definitely do what we say. Yizhong was displeased. All right. Madman nodded and smiled. Let's go. The group immediately turned around and flew toward the Fallen Valley. Young Lord. Suddenly Wang Ming's voice rang in Qin Feiyong's mind. What's the matter? Qin Feiyong glanced at him. Wang Ming hesitated for a moment and transmitted his voice. I really can't help but say something. The ancient city of King Yuang is in your hands now. You want me to take the opportunity to take it for myself? Qin Feiyong frowned. Wang Ming could tell that Qin Feiyong was a little angry when he heard his words. But he still braced himself and transmitted his voice. That's right. What's the reason? Qin Feiyong asked. Isn't this 500 years a daytime array a reason enough? Wang Ming asked in return. So in your eyes, my friendship with the blood demon race can't be compared to a time array? Qin Feiyong asked secretly. Wang Ming didn't know how to answer for a moment. Let me tell you. As a person, you must know how to be grateful. King Yuang takes care of me and trusts me so much. How can I do something that will disappoint him? Don't even mention this matter in the future. Qin Feiyong shouted secretly. Mutual deception was targeted at the enemy. But friends naturally had to be treated sincerely. Yes. Wang Ming's gaze trembled and he hurriedly replied respectfully secretly. Although he had already expected this outcome, he still couldn't help feeling disappointed. Beside him, Yongli couldn't help sighing secretly when he saw Wang Ming's expression. This young lord was good in all aspects, except for the fact that he valued friendship too much. There were both good and bad things about this. Very soon, the group landed in front of the entrance of a valley. There were towering peaks on both sides and only a narrow intersection in the middle. This is the entrance to Fallen Valley, Yizhong said. Why don't we fly in directly? Lunatic was suspicious. If we can fly in directly, we will definitely do so. However, there's no way to fly in the sky above Fallen Valley. Yizhong said. No way to fly. Lunatic and Qin Feiyong looked at each other with bewilderment in their eyes. That's right. In Fallen Valley we can't even teleport. We can only walk. Yizhong nodded. We can only walk? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Then this Fallen Valley was indeed not simple. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. Lunatic, go in first and see if you can absorb the evil power here. All right. Lunatic nodded and glanced at the sky before striding into the entrance of the valley. The inside and outside of the valley were two completely different worlds. Although there was evil power outside, There was basically no danger to one's life as long as one refined it daily. However, the evil power inside was even more terrifying than the tunnel they had passed through to enter. However, Lunatic felt extremely familiar with the evil power that even the blood demon race couldn't absorb. Standing inside, he was like a fish in water. His entire body was extremely comfortable. Boom! With a thought from him, the evil energy in the surroundings surged into his body like a tide. So comfortable, Lunatic murmured. This feeling was like returning to his mother's embrace. It was warm and comfortable. At this moment, Lunatic felt an inexplicable throbbing in his heart. He raised his head and looked at the depths of Fallen Valley. It was as if there was something calling him from the depths. Why is this happening? Lunatic was extremely confused. Not only could he absorb the evil power, but he also felt this throbbing. Was it really like what that senior said? Was this Nether King's hell related to him? Are you okay? Seeing Lunatic standing motionless on the ground, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but worry. Lunatic came back to his senses and turned to Qin Feiyang. He shook his head and smiled. I'm fine. With that, he left the valley. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon asked, Then can you absorb it? Yes. There's no threat. Lunatic nodded. You're really a freak. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon shook his head in amazement and then smiled. But this is a good thing. It is good. But I don't know if you've noticed a problem? Qin Feiyang said. What problem? Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons looked at him suspiciously. It's true that senior brother Lunatic can absorb the evil power, but have you thought about how he's going to bring us in? You have to know that once he absorbs the evil power, it will come from all directions. At that time, we can't avoid being enveloped by the evil power. And, because Lunatic absorbs the evil power around him will be even more terrifying. And I believe you know that the divine power barrier can't block the evil power. So facing the evil power's endless corrosion, he can't bring us into Fallen Valley. Qin Feiyang said. Chapter 2668. That's simple. I will absorb all the evil force in Fallen Valley. Madman said domineeringly. That's not realistic at all. Look at how big Fallen Valley is. Even we can't see the end. How long do you need to absorb it? A few hundred years, a few thousand years? We can't afford it. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Madman frowned. Seemed to make sense. So right now, the only one who can enter Fallen Valley is you. Qin Feiyang said. Madman glanced at Qin Feiyang, then looked at Yi Zhong and the ancestral dragons. Then I will go in alone. You guys will watch from the outside? Wishful thinking. Ancestral Dragon glared at him and said, We have already thought of the problems you mentioned. Already thought of it? Qin Feiyang was slightly taken aback and asked, Since you have already thought of it, then you should have already prepared a countermeasure, right? Ancestral Dragon smiled and shook his head. It's not a good countermeasure. Tell us. Qin Feiyang said. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said, The solution is to absorb all the evil power in Fallen Valley, just as mad scientists said. This, Qin Feiyang was about to speak. Listen to what I have to say first. We have already figured out Fallen Valley. It's not as big as you think. As for Madman's speed of absorbing the evil force, I have also seen it. According to my judgment, it will take at most 100 years to absorb it all. Ancestral Dragon said. 100 years, Qin Feiyang frowned. Even if it was only 100 years, it was still a long time. Why don't we not go? There might not be any heaven-defying treasures inside. Madman said. He also felt that it was too long. 100 years was enough for him to break through to the complete Nine Heavens realm if he entered the time array in the ancient city. We have waited for so long for this opportunity. How can we give it up? Let's talk about it later. No one knows if there are any divine items in this Fallen Valley. What if there are? And there might be more than one or two. Ancestral Dragon said. But these 100 years, Madman frowned. Although something in the depths of Fallen Valley was calling him, he did not want to waste any time. Moreover, even if he wanted to go in, he didn't want to bring Yi Zhong and the others with him. How nice it would be to go in alone. Even if there was a heaven-defying divine item, no one would snatch it from him. But now the arrow was already knocked. If he did not do as the ancestral dragon said, the dragons would probably fly into a rage out of humiliation. Wait! Suddenly, Madman turned to look at Fallen Valley with a trace of surprise in his eyes. If he could absorb the evil power of the Fallen Valley, would his divine power be able to isolate the evil power as well? After all, his divine power had now become the power of evil. If his divine power could isolate the evil power of Fallen Valley, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Thinking of this, he took another step forward and entered the Valley of the Fallen. What is he doing? Qin Feiyong, Yizhong, and the others looked at Madman suspiciously. He can't be thinking of leaving us behind and running in alone, right? The chief pavilion master shouted angrily. When Yizhong and the others heard this, they could not help but frown. Qin Feiyong also looked at the chief pavilion master and frowned. I really want to know, what are you thinking? The chief pavilion master said. What do you think I am thinking? Trying to sow discord again and again. I think your motive is not simple. Qin Feiyong's eyes flashed with a shocking cold light. This woman was about to anger him. I am just voicing my doubts, is that not allowed? The chief pavilion master raised his eyebrows. Up to you, but you have to remember one thing, there is a limit to a person's patience. After Qin Feiyong finished speaking, he looked at Madman. When the chief pavilion master heard this, a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. He looked at Madman again. He stood motionless in the valley. Suddenly, Madman released his divine power. An enchantment appeared. Just as this enchantment appeared, a shocking scene appeared. The evil force that permeated the surroundings was actually completely isolated outside the enchantment. Yizhong and the others were dumbfounded. This could actually be done? Time passed by. Even after dozens of breaths, there was still no trace of evil force entering the enchantment. In other words, the divine power enchantment condensed by Madman could completely isolate the evil force of Fallen Valley. This is too heaven-defying. What a huge surprise. Yizhong and the other ancestral dragons came back to their senses and were immediately overjoyed. To be able to completely isolate the evil force, was there a need to absorb it? They could just go in directly. Pervert. Qin Feiyong's heart was also shocked to the extreme. This madman was simply a monster. Madman also laughed. And he laughed very happily. Suddenly, he turned around, looked at the chief pavilion master, and joked, "Old witch, what did you say just now? Come, say it again." The chief pavilion master's face was extremely ugly. "Say it." "What? You don't dare?" Madman wantonly provoked. "Don't go too far." The chief pavilion master said gloomily. "I am bullying you, so what? I have the capital. Because now, whether you can enter Fallen Valley or not, it all depends on my mood." Madman looked at her proudly. The chief pavilion master clenched her hands. This was the problem she was worried about. At that time, if everyone entered Fallen Valley and only she was left outside by Madman, it would be a huge loss. Because now, only Madman could bring them in. "Beg me. As long as your attitude is more sincere, I will bring you into Fallen Valley." Madman chuckled. Madman, I think that's enough. There's nothing to be calculative about." Seeing that the situation was getting worse, Ancestral Dragon looked at Madman and persuaded. "Master, I don't agree with this. You all heard what she said just now. She actually thought that I would abandon everyone and enter Fallen Valley alone. She's doubting my character. How can I just let this go? Master, don't say that I didn't give you face. If she doesn't beg me today, I will only bring Li Bu-er in and the rest of you stay outside." Madman snorted. His attitude was very firm. There was no other way. He did have the right to be firm. Who asked him to be the only one who could bring everyone into Fallen Valley? The moment he said this, the atmosphere changed. In the giant Dragon Mountain range, everyone had been with Madman for 100 years, so they understood his character quite well. If he said it, then he would do it. "That, old black. You don't seem to have any dignity as a master." The white-robed woman looked at Madman and secretly transmitted her voice. She was a little uncomfortable with Madman's attitude. "What can I do? It's not like you don't know this kid's temper. When he gets angry, he is a devil incarnate. Plus, he is the hope of our entire village. Ancestral Dragon smiled bitterly. The hope of the entire village? The white-robed woman's mouth twitched. When did this old thing learn to talk nonsense? That Chief Pavilion Master just apologize. Yeah. Although Madman is eccentric, he still has a sense of propriety. After all, he didn't ask you to do anything else, just apologize. Plus, this is your fault in the first place. In the future, before you figure out the situation, don't measure the heart of a gentleman with the yardstick of a villain. All the ancestral dragons looked at the Chief Pavilion Master and said, I'm a villain? He's a gentleman. The Chief Pavilion Master was instantly enraged and roared. Do you know that he and Li Bu? Qin Feiyong's eyelids twitched as he shouted, What do you want to say? The Chief Pavilion Master immediately glared at Qin Feiyong angrily. You want to expose our identity? I advise you to be rational. Because your and the Beast Emperor's identity is also a taboo. Qin Feiyong secretly shouted. The Chief Pavilion Master's gaze trembled slightly. The Beast Emperor looked at Yizhong and the others, then at Madman and Qin Feiyong, and said telepathically, Supreme Cloud, just apologize. The Chief Pavilion Master was extremely sullen, feeling that everyone was targeting him. Didn't you see the eyes of Yizhong and the ancestral dragons? Now, no matter how angry you are, you have to hold it in. The Beast Emperor said telepathically. The Chief Pavilion Master's heart skipped a beat, as he immediately glanced at Yizhong and the ancestral dragons. He realized that there was a cold glint in their eyes. In order to enter Fallen Valley, the ancestral dragons can be said to have put in a lot of effort. If you ruin their plans, they will definitely not let you go. If you want to vent your anger, wait until you get the heaven-defying divine item, the Beast Emperor thought. Hearing this, the Chief Pavilion Master took a few deep breaths and looked at Madman. I'm sorry, please forgive me. I didn't hear it. Madman rubbed his ears and said indifferently. I'm sorry, please forgive me. The Chief Pavilion Master clenched his fists, holding back his anger as he roared. Haha. Madman immediately laughed and said, Then come in. As he spoke, the barrier rapidly expanded until it was 1,000 feet wide. Inside the barrier, there was not a single wisp of evil power. Qin Feiyong led Wang Ming and the Beast Emperor into the barrier first. Yizhong and the ancestral dragons quickly followed. Let's go. The Beast Emperor glanced at the Chief Pavilion Master and said secretly before he also entered the barrier. Madman glanced at the Chief Pavilion Master and said cheerfully, If you didn't come, we would have left. The Chief Pavilion Master exhaled and finally entered the barrier as well. Let's go. Madman waved his hand and led the group into the depths of Fallen Valley in high spirits. How magical! Everyone looked at the barrier with bewilderment in their eyes. Old Man Yi, fortunately, I listened to your advice back then and didn't continue to use him. Otherwise, how could we enter Fallen Valley so easily? The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon couldn't help sighing. It's good that you know. Yizhong smiled inwardly. A person like Madman absolutely couldn't have the slightest bit of malice, otherwise the ancestral dragons would be the ones to suffer in the end. Let's not talk about it anymore. Hurry up and pay attention to the surroundings. Madman, slow down. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon instructed as he scanned his surroundings carefully. Chapter 2669. Fallen Valley was very big. Due to the density of the evil energy, they could only see within a range of 1,000 feet. At this speed, who knew how many years it would take to search the entire Fallen Valley? Yizhong asked Frenzy, Can the barrier expand a little more? Let me try. Frenzy released his divine power. The barrier began to expand slowly. 2,000 feet. 3,000 feet. 6,000 feet. Finally, it expanded to 10,000 feet. It can't get any bigger? Yizhong asked. Yes. Frenzy nodded. But what? Everyone looked at him suspiciously. Why are you so stupid? I used my divine power to create this barrier. The bigger the barrier, the more divine power it consumes. We don't know how big Fallen Valley is. Of course we have to save enough divine power to fight a long battle. Frenzy rolled his eyes. Everyone laughed awkwardly when they heard this. Look over there. There seems to be a cave. Suddenly, Wang Ming's surprised voice rang out. Cave? Everyone was slightly taken aback and immediately looked in the direction Wang Ming was pointing. They saw a dark cave on the cliff on the left. The cave was halfway up the mountain, about 100 meters above the ground. Why would there be a cave in such a place? Yang Li was suspicious. Even the Blood Demon tribe didn't dare to step into Fallen Valley. Even the Blood Demon tribe didn't dare to enter, let alone other living beings. Since no living beings dared to step in, where did this cave come from? Shall we go in and take a look? Qin Feiyong looked at Yi Zhong and the others and asked. We have to take a look. Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon's eyes flashed. Swish. The group walked to the bottom of the cliff and suddenly jumped, landing at the entrance of the cave. Although they couldn't fly, experts at their level could easily jump 1,000 feet high. So, the height of a mere 1,000 feet was nothing to them. The entrance was quite big and could accommodate 20 to 30 people. Everyone stood in front of the entrance and looked inside. The cave was not very deep, about 1,000 feet deep. On the uneven ground in the middle of the cave, there were 5 palm-sized wooden boxes. Box! Everyone's eyes lit up when they saw the 5 wooden boxes, and they hurriedly ran inside. It doesn't have the aura of a seal. It shouldn't be a heaven-defying divine object. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. Yes. Madman nodded as well. Ancestral Gragon was the first to grab a wooden box and immediately opened it. A jade slip immediately appeared. In the meantime, Yi Zhong, Beast Emperor, the Chief Pavilion Master, and Wang Ming each grabbed a wooden box and opened it. Each of the wooden boxes contained a jade slip. But soon, disappointment appeared on their faces. This jade slip of mine is only a paragon-level divine art. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. My jade slip is even worse. It's a legendary divine art. Yi Zhong said. Mine is still alright. It's a paragon-level support-type divine art. The Beast Emperor said. Mine is also a legendary-level divine art. Mine is a legendary-level support-type divine art. The Chief Pavilion Master and Wang Ming also spoke. 3 legendary-level divine arts, 2 paragon-level divine arts. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. These divine arts might not have much value in their eyes, but to ordinary people, they were equivalent to treasures. Don't be so disappointed, because this is actually good news for us. Qin Feiyong looked at Yi Zhong and the others and smiled. Good news? Everyone was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyong in confusion. Think about it. We just entered Fallen Valley, and we already found 3 legendary-level divine arts and 2 paragon-level divine arts. What does this mean? It means that Fallen Valley has a large number of divine objects. Then there must be heaven-defying divine objects. Qin Feiyong said. Li Buer is right. Let's continue to search. The woman in white nodded. Wang Ming asked, what about these divine arts? Yi Zhong pondered for a while and said, although these divine arts are worthless to us, they are priceless to ordinary people. Everyone nodded. After all, only a few people had heaven-defying divine arts. Like now. Although everyone present was a top figure in the divine land, who had heaven-defying divine arts? No one. Only Qin Feiyong and Madman had them. Therefore, in the eyes of most people, a sovereign-level deity technique was the best. Yi Zhong thought for a while and said, how about this? Let one person keep them first, and we'll split them after we leave Fallen Valley. Who will keep them? The Beast Emperor asked. The youth in red said, of course. Of course it's me. Madman said. The youth in red looked at Madman in shock. He wanted to say that the dragons would keep them. As for keeping them, it was just an excuse. If they really fell into the hands of the dragons, they wouldn't be able to get them to spit them out. After all, this hell belonged to the dragon god. The treasures found here should belong to the dragons. Besides, there were so many dragons under the dragon god. There were also the 4 dragon god palaces with countless disciples. These all required resources. But who would have thought that Madman would interfere? Madman was the disciple of Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon, and he was Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's brother. As a junior, he was disrespected in public, which made him quite unhappy. Madman completely ignored him and said, I brought you in, so I'll keep these treasures. You shouldn't have any objections, right? The youth in red was about to reprimand him. But Ancestral Dragon was one step ahead and smiled at Madman. We're all on the same side. What objections can we have? Old Black, what do you mean? You're spoiling him too much. The youth in red said telepathically. He's my disciple. What's the difference between letting him keep them and letting us keep them? In the end, they'll all return to us dragons. Ancestral Dragon said telepathically. You're spoiling him. Sooner or later, he won't even put you in his eyes. The youth in red snorted secretly. Although he's a bit stubborn, I believe that he still knows how to respect his teacher. Ancestral Dragon laughed secretly. The youth in red glanced at him and didn't say anything. Take it. Ancestral Dragon put the jade slip back into the wooden box and threw it to Madman. Yizhong and the others also handed the wooden box to Madman. Madman laughed and put it into his yin and yang ring. Let's go, we'll keep looking. The group searched the cave carefully and didn't find any other treasures. So they left the cave and continued their search. Madman laughed secretly. Qin Feiyong, not bad, right? How could he not see through the youth in red's thoughts? But the youth in red didn't know that Madman was also thinking the same thing. As long as it entered Madman's pocket, it would be difficult to get him to take it out. You're keeping these deity arts because you want to bring them back to Nine Heaven Palace? Qin Feiyong asked secretly. As expected, I can't hide anything from you. That's right. You know the situation of Nine Heaven Palace. Not to mention sovereign deity arts, even legendary deity artifacts are rarely seen. And now with such a good opportunity, I'll definitely take some back. Madman transmitted. If Grand Elder hears your words, he'll probably wake up laughing. Qin Feiyong laughed secretly. Madman's actions might not seem important, but there was a deep meaning behind it. Because this meant that Madman was trying to shoulder the responsibility of revitalizing Nine Heaven Palace. And wasn't this what Grand Elder and Hui wanted? Because in their eyes, Madman had the ability to do so. But because of his personality, he wasn't willing to do it. But, I won't forget you, we'll split it equally. As for Ancestral Dragon, Chief Pavilion Master, and Beast Emperor, don't even think about it. Madman laughed secretly. When Qin Feiyong heard this, he couldn't help but find it funny. A group of old foxes and a little fox, how interesting. But he didn't know. In Madman's eyes, he was also a little fox. Next, in less than half an hour, they found another 25 deity arts. Most of them were legendary deity arts, and the rest were sovereign deity arts. Moreover, they also found 16 deity artifacts, 10 teleportation artifacts, 6 sovereign deity artifacts. And these treasures, without exception, all entered Madman's universe ring. Strange. Why haven't we encountered the blood puppet they mentioned? Madman said secretly. Although the problem of evil force was solved, there were still other threats. Just like the blood puppet, no one knew where these blood puppets were hiding. Danger was always there. Don't worry, we'll encounter it sooner or later. After all, we're still at the edge. Qin Feiyong said secretly. That's right. They didn't go directly into the depths, but searched along the edge of Fallen Valley. 2 days later, the group circled the edge and slowly moved forward, finally going more than 10 miles into Fallen Valley. A distance of more than 10 miles was just a step for them. But because they had to carefully search for deity artifacts and go around Fallen Valley, it was very slow. In these 2 days, the number of deity arts and deity artifacts they obtained added up to 3 digits. 2 days later in the morning, in front of them, a bloody and violent aura suddenly appeared. This is... Qin Feiyong and Madman were surprised. This is the aura of the blood puppet. Everyone be careful. Yizhong said in a low voice. Blood puppet. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other. It seemed that not only were they not nervous, but they were also eager to try. Yizhong soon noticed the abnormality of the two and said in a low voice, Don't underestimate the blood puppet. What? The two looked at him suspiciously. This blood puppet. Before Yizhong could finish his words, a huge beast shadow suddenly appeared in the blood mist outside the barrier. It was a blood leopard. It had the cultivation of the perfect ninth heaven realm. A pair of blood-red eyes without any vitality, were empty and filled with a bloodthirsty light. Don't look, let's go. Yizhong said secretly. Okay. Madman nodded. But he was puzzled. Even if it was a blood puppet, It only had the cultivation of the perfect ninth heaven realm. What was Yi Zhong afraid of? And he also found out. Not only Yi Zhong, but even the Beast Emperor and the ancestral dragons had a deep fear in their eyes. P.S. I was delayed by something today. The remaining 2 chapters will be released later. Madman, S's blood. It's blood. Suddenly, their pupils shrank abruptly. They saw that the flesh and blood slowly flowed like flowing water and finally merged together. Then, as the flesh and blood merged, the blood puppet that was killed by Yi Zhong appeared in front of them again. In other words, it was reborn. How is this possible? Madman and Qin Feiyong were dumbfounded. This is the most terrifying thing about the blood puppet. They can't be killed. As long as there is a little bit of flesh and blood left, they can be reborn. Yi Zhong said. Can't be killed, Qin Feiyong murmured. In his mind, a person suddenly appeared. This person was Zhuge Mingyang. Until now, he still remembered that Zhuge Mingyang cultivated some kind of undying demon technique, which allowed him to be reborn after being killed. This kind of situation was the most troublesome. Then let's completely destroy his flesh and blood, not leaving a single drop. Let's see how he can be reborn. Madman said in a deep voice. But you have to know that this isn't the only blood puppet in Fallen Valley. Yi Zhong shook his head and sighed. He made a move and punched the blood puppet again. The blood puppet had no consciousness and wasn't afraid of death at all. It pounced at Yi Zhong ferociously. Boom! The blood puppet shattered again. Following closely, Yi Zhong released the law of fire and burned all the flesh and blood. Let's retreat. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon looked around and shook his head regretfully. It looked like he had given up. Retreat. Madman frowned. Otherwise, if we don't quickly refine the evil force in our body, our divine soul will be eroded sooner or later. And to refine this evil force, it will take at least a few thousand years. Our trip to the Infernal King Hell has come to an end. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon sighed. Over. The Chief Pavilion Master looked dazed. After suffering so much humiliation and entering Fallen Valley, it ended just like that? She found it hard to accept this result. As for Qin Feiyong, he also looked at Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon in a daze. This sudden sentence made him unable to adapt to it. Now, he finally realized why Yi Zhong and the others were so afraid of the blood puppet. They weren't afraid of the blood puppet, but the current situation. Once the evil force of Fallen Valley invaded their body, it was equivalent to declaring the end. Madman pondered and suddenly looked at Qin Feiyong. Give me your hand. Why? Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously. Let me try. Can I absorb the evil force in your body? Madman said. When everyone heard this, they immediately looked at Madman. Qin Feiyong was also stunned and raised his arm. Madman grabbed Qin Feiyong's hand and divine power flowed from his palm into Qin Feiyong's body. Absorb. When the divine power filled Qin Feiyong's body, Madman roared and the divine power in Qin Feiyong's body immediately rushed toward the evil force. Qin Feiyong was also observing the situation inside his body. He was surprised to find that Madman's divine power instantly devoured the evil force. It works. Madman's eyes lit up. After devouring all the evil force, the divine power quickly returned to Madman's body. How is it? Yi Zhong and the others looked nervously at Madman. No. Madman shook his head and sighed. This. Yi Zhong and the others froze and their expressions were filled with disappointment. Madman looked at their expressions and couldn't help but laugh. I'm just teasing you. I can devour it. Can. The group of people was stunned for a moment before glaring at the madman. Bastard, how can you joke about this? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon roared, just livening up the atmosphere. Madman grinned. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon rolled his eyes. Yi Zhong and the others also wished they could give the madman a good beating. However, this was great news for them. Madman could directly devour the evil force in their bodies, and they didn't have to worry about being corroded by the evil force. Then they could continue to search for treasures in Fallen Valley. For us dragons, he is really a lucky star. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon sighed. The other ancestral dragons also secretly agreed. Although they didn't like Madman, It was undeniable that Madman's existence was indispensable to them dragons. Madman was destined to become the person who changed the fate of the dragons. Come, come, come. All of you, line up for me and wait for me to pamper. Madman grinned. Pamper? Everyone's mouth twitched. If this was heard by outsiders, they would probably think that they had some unspeakable relationship. He was indeed a jerk who didn't know what to do. Soon, the evil force in Yizhong, the ancestral dragons, and the beast emperors were all devoured by Madman. In the end, only the chief pavilion lord was left. But looking at the chief pavilion lord, Madman didn't make a move and his face was full of ridicule. Cough, cough. Little Madman, don't go too far. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon secretly said. Master, this disciple doesn't feel comfortable hearing this. Am I the kind of person who takes advantage of others? Madman was dissatisfied. Shameless. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon rolled his eyes at him. What do you want now? The chief pavilion lord looked at Madman gloomily. I am very curious, what does your face hidden in the fog look like? Madman said. From the beginning until now, the chief pavilion master had been shrouded in a layer of mist. Therefore, neither Qin Feiyong nor Madman knew her true appearance. Hearing this, the chief pavilion lord fell silent. Qin Feiyong was also slightly taken aback by Madman's question. Then, he noticed that Yizhong, the ancestral dragons, and even the beast emperor and Wang Ming were all staring at the chief pavilion lord curiously. What was going on? Could it be that even these people had never seen the chief pavilion lord's true appearance? If that was the case, then there was a problem. After all, Yizhong and the ancestral dragons were all top powerhouses in Divine Land, and their status was not inferior to the chief pavilion lords at all. And the beast emperor was the chief pavilion lord's ally. Wang Ming and Yang Li were also subordinates of the chief pavilion lord and the beast emperor. If they hadn't seen the chief pavilion lord's true appearance even with such a relationship, who would believe that there was no problem? Yizhong's eyes flashed and he said with a smile, then you can reveal your true appearance. Damn, I really don't know. Qin Feiyong muttered in disbelief and said telepathically, Master, you really haven't seen her true appearance? No. I'm afraid that in this world, the only person who has seen her true appearance is Long Zun. Yizhong thought to himself. That's too mysterious. Qin Feiyong muttered, the curiosity in his eyes growing. Who knew what the chief pavilion lord was thinking about with his face shrouded in mist? But the atmosphere was very heavy. Suddenly, the chief pavilion lord said, we will withdraw from Fallen Valley. What? You'd rather withdraw from Fallen Valley than reveal your true appearance? Everyone was stunned. What kind of face was hidden under the mist? Why was the chief pavilion lord so afraid of others seeing her true appearance? With that, the chief pavilion lord actually turned around and walked out of the barrier. Qin Feiyong asked telepathically, Senior Brother Madman, do you have any thoughts? Of course. The more this woman is like this, the more interested I am. Madman laughed inwardly and said disdainfully, don't worry, I was just joking. Do you think I'm really interested in an old witch like you? The chief pavilion lord suddenly turned around and stared at Madman. I'm warning you, don't speak rudely again. Okay. Madman waved his hand and said, come over. I'll help you absorb the evil power. The chief pavilion lord was silent for a moment, then slowly walked in front of Madman and raised his arm. Madman also raised his hand and grabbed the chief pavilion lord's wrist. That moment, a cold chill came from the chief pavilion lord's skin. This skin is pretty good. Isn't it an old witch? Madman muttered and even rubbed it a few times in enjoyment. Chapter 2671. He didn't feel any wrinkles on the chief pavilion master's skin. Tender. Delicate. Just like the skin of a young woman. What are you doing? The chief pavilion master noticed Madman's abnormality and immediately said angrily, Nothing. Madman shook his head and quickly devoured the divine power in the chief pavilion master's body. The chief pavilion master also shook off Madman's hand. Qin Feiyong secretly laughed and said, Senior Martial Brother Frenzy, you look like you're enjoying yourself. Cough, cough. Madman's face turned red and he said, You don't say, this woman shouldn't be ugly. Qin Feiyong was stunned. I thought it was because she was ugly that she didn't dare to show her true face. But now it seems there should be another reason, Madman said. Another reason? Qin Feiyong whispered. Then what reason could it be? There's no rush now, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Madman laughed secretly and then looked at Yi Zhong and the others. Let's continue. When they encountered the blood puppets, Yi Zhong and the others weren't so worried anymore. Madman helped them devour the evil power anyway. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. The group had already gone more than 100 miles into Fallen Valley. Everywhere they went, they didn't let go of any divine artifacts or divine arts. Now, there were already hundreds of divine artifacts and hundreds of divine arts in Madman's universe ring. And the lowest level was legendary. However, they didn't encounter a single divine artifact. They couldn't help but wonder if Fallen Valley really had a heaven-defying divine item. And the number of blood puppets they encountered along the way was no less than 200 or 300. Qin Feiyong was fine as long as he was responsible for finding treasures. But Madman was busy. Every time they encountered a blood puppet, the barrier would break. And every time the barrier broke, he would have to help everyone devour the evil power. But it seemed that devouring this evil power would bring him great benefits. Because Qin Feiyong noticed that Madman's cultivation would improve every time he devoured the evil power. It's been more than half a month, why don't we take a break? Madman can also recover his godly power. Ancestral Dragon suggested. From the looks of it, she felt sorry for Lunatic. Alright. Yi Zhong nodded. They were fine, but they were afraid that the Madman would use up too much of his godly power. The group scanned their surroundings and entered a small valley nearby. Black Dragon Ancestral Gragon immediately took out a huge pile of God Power pellets and God Crystals and placed them in front of Madman. He said, "Hurry up and absorb them. Then I won't stand on ceremony." Madman chuckled as he sat on the ground and madly absorbed the energy of the God Power pellet and the God Art. Qin Feiyong glanced at the Ancestral Dragon. Although they had encountered many blood puppets in the past half a month, none of them had surpassed the Grand Perfection 9th Heaven Realm. Although there was only a small difference between the Grand Perfection 9th Heaven Realm and the Grand Perfection 9th Heaven Realm, their strength was completely different. Even they didn't want to face such a blood puppet. Dong! However, just as everyone relaxed, the footsteps suddenly paused and started walking towards them again. Everyone was surprised. Boom! Suddenly, a giant foot descended from the sky. The mountain peak on the left side of the small valley was immediately crushed by this foot. Immediately after, a huge figure appeared outside the barrier. Blood Demon Race. Yi Zhong and the others looked at the figure and couldn't help but turn pale. Madman, let's go! Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon shouted. That's right. That giant was a blood demon. It was 50 meters tall and emitted a monstrous aura. Isn't it just a blood demon puppet? What are you afraid of? Madman was puzzled. You don't understand. This blood demon puppet can transform even before nighttime. Yi Zhong shouted. What? It can transform even before nighttime. Madman was dazed. Qin Feiyong's eyes also trembled. They had known the blood demon race for a long time. Of course they knew how strong the transformed blood demon race was. And this blood demon in front of them was 50 meters tall, which meant that his strength was on the same level as the Lord of the Mysterious Heaven Ancient City, the One-Eyed Giant. Because the One-Eyed Giant was also 50 meters tall. Qin Feiyong still remembered how powerful the One-Eyed Giant was after transforming. Even when facing the self-destruction of a Grand Perfection 9th Heaven Realm, it could easily block it. Let's go. Madman didn't dare to hesitate and immediately got up. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon personally took Madman out of the small valley and fled into the distance. Yi Zhong also swept up Qin Feiyong and followed closely behind Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon and Madman. The Beast Emperor, the Chief Pavilion Master, the other Ancestral Dragons, and Wang Ming naturally didn't dare to be careless. Boom! When the blood demon puppet saw the group of people, its eyes instantly flashed with a bloodthirsty light. Moreover, under Qin Feiyong and Madman's incredulous gazes, it actually took a mysterious step. And this step was a supreme-level auxiliary divine art. No way! The blood demon puppet knows how to use divine arts. The two were dumbfounded. Otherwise, why do you think we're running? It can be said that this blood demon puppet is even more terrifying than the blood demon race, Yizhong said in a deep voice. This was the truth. Although the blood demon race was strong, it was easier to kill, and it could only transform at night. But the blood demon puppet, it could transform at any time, and even if it was killed, as long as there was a bit of flesh and blood left, it could be reborn. So, facing the blood demon puppet, they should avoid it as much as possible. But this blood demon puppet didn't seem to have any intention of letting them go as it chased after them. Wherever it went, mountains collapsed and the earth collapsed, leaving behind huge footprints. Yizhong, the chief pavilion master, the beast emperor, and the other ancestral dragons all used auxiliary divine arts when they saw that the situation wasn't good. I hope it doesn't transform. Otherwise, after it transforms, its speed will increase greatly, and we can only fight it. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon said in a deep voice. Roar! Speak of the devil. As soon as the black-clothed Ancestral Dragon said this, the blood demon puppet suddenly roared. Its huge body suddenly expanded wildly, and blood-red hair grew all over its body. In just a moment, its body became 500 meters tall like a giant blood-red ape, emitting a violent aura. The two of you stay here. The rest of you follow me out and quickly get rid of it. Yizhong decisively put down Qin Feiyang, rushed out of the barrier, and charged toward the giant blood-red ape. And when he rushed out of the barrier, he waved his old hand, and a divine barrier appeared, enveloping the madman Qin Feiyang and the madman's barrier. Although the barrier he set up couldn't stop the evil power from seeping in, it could block the fluctuations of the battle. In this way, with the protection of Wang Ming and the other ancestral dragon, even if they fought at close range, Qin Feiyang and the madman wouldn't be affected. The beast emperor, the chief pavilion master, and the 8 ancestral dragons definitely wouldn't dare to be careless. Almost at the same time that Yizhong went out, they also rushed out of the barrier. Escape? That was already unrealistic. Because once the blood demon puppet transformed, it was impossible to escape. As for the evil power in Fallen Valley, they didn't have to worry about it with the madman around. The reason for that was because they had entered the Fallen Valley before. With their strength, they were only able to last for an hour inside the evil force. As long as they could end the battle in this half an hour, return to the barrier, and let the madman devour the evil power, then their lives wouldn't be in danger. Boom! The battle began. No one dared to be sloppy. They directly evolved their supreme-level divine arts and charged toward the blood demon puppet. Qin Feiyang, what do you think? Why don't we just kill them right here? The madman looked at the battlefield with undisguised killing intent in his eyes. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Look, on one hand he was thinking of harming others and on the other hand he was cheering for others. If this wasn't sinister, then what was? Battlefield. 11 pinnacle ultimate powerhouses continued to bombard the blood demon puppets. Even the blood demon puppets on the same level as the Cyclops found it difficult to resist. 100 breaths. The blood demon puppets were blasted into pieces, their flesh and blood obliterated. Whoosh! After the battle ended, the 11 of them didn't dare to delay and immediately entered the barrier. Master, you're mighty. Crazy Guy chuckled. So many of us joined forces to deal with a blood demon puppet, and it actually took us 100 breaths to deal with it. Mighty my ass. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon cursed. The expressions of the others were also quite ugly. The strength of the blood demon puppets was completely beyond their imagination. Fortunately, there was only one blood demon puppet. If there were 8 or 10 of them, they would probably be the ones to suffer. It's also very powerful, okay? If it were me or Li Bu-er, it might have directly killed us with a slap, Crazy Guy said. That's true. Ancestral Dragon smiled. After Crazy Guy devoured the evil power in their bodies one by one, he prepared to leave the battlefield. Because the fluctuations of the battle might attract a large number of blood demon puppets. But suddenly, Qin Feiyang seemed to have caught a blood shadow in the blood mist in front of him, and a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. What's wrong? Crazy Guy looked at him suspiciously. Why is there a blood shadow? Qin Feiyang muttered. Could it be that there was some kind of living being in this fallen valley? But that was impossible. Because even the blood demon didn't dare to enter, how could there be other living beings? It must be an illusion. Did you discover something? Yi Zhong and the others also looked at Qin Feiyong in confusion. Nothing. Qin Feiyong waved his hand. Then let's hurry up and leave. Lest the blood demon puppets are attracted over. That would be troublesome. Yi Zhong said. Everyone nodded. After such a commotion, everyone was no longer in the mood to rest and hurriedly went to search for treasures. The group restrained their auras and slowly went deeper. Along the way, they encountered many divine arts and divine artifacts. They also encountered blood demon puppets frequently. 2 months later, they were 300 miles deep into the Fallen Valley. After searching for so many days, even Yi Zhong and the ancestral dragons couldn't help but feel tired. In fact, they were tired and anxious, because until now, they hadn't even encountered a single heaven-defying divine artifact. Originally, before they came in, they all had great expectations. But as the days passed, they didn't even find a single heaven-defying divine artifact. This was a kind of torture for them. Wait! Suddenly, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon waved his hand and stopped, looking ahead in surprise. Everyone thought that they had encountered another blood demon puppet, so they all slammed on the brakes, their faces full of vigilance. There seems to be an aura of a seal? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon muttered. An aura of a seal. Qin Feiyong and Crazy Guy's eyes suddenly trembled. If there was an aura of a seal, didn't that mean that they had encountered a heaven-defying divine artifact? They hurriedly sensed carefully. After a short while, the two clenched their hands, and there was indeed an aura of a seal in the void. Over here, let's go over and take a look. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon pointed to the left, and after speaking, he hurriedly ran over. Yi Zhong and the others also couldn't wait to follow. What's going on? From the looks of it, they seem to know that there is a heaven-defying divine artifact with a seal. Crazy Guy transmitted his voice. It's not their first time in the Nether King's hell. What's so strange about them knowing? What we need to do now is to not let these heaven-defying divine artifacts fall into their hands. Qin Feiyong thought. What's there to think about? We have already agreed in advance that the first heaven-defying divine artifact will belong to me. Crazy Guy said. You really believe it? Qin Feiyong was speechless. What? They dared to lie to me? Crazy Guy was satisfied and disdainful. I know what you are capable of. Without you, they won't be able to continue searching for treasures in the Fallen Valley. And Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons will definitely not go back on their words. After all, their goal isn't 1 or 2 heaven-defying divine artifacts, but to search the entire Fallen Valley. But the Chief Pavilion Lord is different. Qin Feiyong's eyes shone. Tell me, Crazy Guy said. Why did the dragons bring her along? It's very simple, the dragons don't really treat her as an ally, just like how we are using the dragons now, purely because of her strength and want her to be a free laborer. She is also very clear about this point. Not to mention 1 or 2, even if she finds 100 heaven-defying divine artifacts, the dragons won't let her get one. And everyone here except for the Beast Emperor is her opponent. But the Beast Emperor won't help her openly. In other words, she's all alone. You can imagine her situation. If there is a chance to obtain a heaven-defying divine artifact, do you think she will be lenient? She definitely won't be lenient. She will definitely snatch it, and then leave the Fallen Valley to hide and refine the evil force in her body. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. She dares. If she does this, she will definitely anger the dragons. At that time, not only her, but the entire treasure pavilion will be destroyed because of her stupid actions. Crazy Guy said. Big brother, do you think the value of a heaven-defying divine artifact can't be compared to the treasure pavilion? Qin Feiyong was helpless. Crazy Guy was stunned. Thinking about it, it made sense. Although the treasure pavilion's forces were spread throughout the ancient world and had endless wealth, it really couldn't be compared to a heaven-defying divine artifact. Because the value of a heaven-defying divine artifact was reflected in its combat power. This was something that nothing could replace. If he had to choose, he would also choose a heaven-defying divine artifact instead of the treasure pavilion. A heaven-defying divine artifact is the greatest existence in this world apart from the sovereign weapon. Every heaven-defying divine artifact has the ability to destroy heaven and earth. If the Chief Pavilion Lord really gets a heaven-defying divine artifact, It might even cause the dragons to be afraid and not dare to attack her. Because if they really go all out, a heaven-defying divine artifact is enough to make the dragons pay a heavy price. After all, the dragons don't even have a single heaven-defying divine artifact. The only sovereign divine weapon, but it's not something they can control. Qin Feiyang thought. Makes sense. Looks like we do have to be wary of her. Crazy guy muttered. At the same time, the Beast Emperor glanced at Qin Feiyang and the others. His eyes flickered as he transmitted his voice. Cloud Supreme, if there really is a heaven-defying divine artifact later, you must snatch it. Snatch? The Chief Pavilion Lord was shocked. Don't worry. The Sunset Divine Bow and other heaven-defying divine artifacts have been snatched away by Qin Feiyang. The dragons today are not as strong as before. Even if you snatch the heaven-defying divine artifact, as long as you can return to the divine land alive, the dragons won't dare to do anything to you. The Beast Emperor thought. The Chief Pavilion Lord pondered for a while and asked secretly, "What about you? I definitely can't make a move. After all, it wasn't easy for me to gain Longzuan's trust." The Beast Emperor transmitted his voice. "Okay," the Chief Pavilion Lord replied secretly with a cold glint in his eyes. Chapter 2673. A moment passed. A square appeared in the blood mist in front of them. The square was about 50 to 60 feet tall, and there was a stone pillar several meters tall in the middle. And at the top of the stone pillar, there was a long iron box. The iron box was about 2 meters long and 1 foot wide. There was no brilliance in the whole body, and it looked extremely ordinary. But Qin Feiyang looked at the iron box and his eyes flickered, because the seal aura they sensed came from this iron box. Obviously, inside the iron box was a heaven-defying artifact. Haha, the heavens do not disappoint those who work hard. After working hard for so long, I finally found a heaven-defying artifact. Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons were also overjoyed. The Chief Pavilion Master and the Beast Emperor were also full of smiles, but there was a trace of coldness hidden under their smiles. However, although they were excited, they did not lose their minds. And no one rushed towards the square, because there was a group of blood puppets on all sides of the square. That's right. Not 1 or 2 but a total of 500 to 600. And these blood puppets were all at the peak of the 9 heavens realm. Something's wrong. Qin Feiyang suppressed the excitement in his heart and gradually frowned. What's wrong? Yi Zhong was stunned and turned to look at him suspiciously. Everyone knows that these blood puppets have no consciousness. Logically speaking, they should be the same as the blood puppets we encountered before, wandering around Fallen Valley like ghosts. But the blood puppets here, they are actually gathered together and wandering around the square. Looking at them, it seems more like they are guarding the iron box. Qin Feiyang pondered. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled. That's right. Why was it like this? Qin Feiyang said, this feeling. As if someone is secretly controlling them? Speaking of this, then he recalled the blood shadow that he had accidentally captured back then. Could it be that it was not an illusion at that time? Were there really living creatures in Fallen Valley? Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang could not help but feel a chill down his spine. The danger of Fallen Valley was obvious to all. How terrifying were the living creatures that could survive here? Control. When Yi Zhong and the others heard Qin Feiyang's words, they could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. If there really was someone controlling these blood puppets from the shadows, then this person, he didn't dare to think about it. They really didn't dare to think about it anymore. Li Bu-er, you are just exaggerating. This might just be a coincidence. The Beast Emperor suddenly said. I hope it's just a coincidence. Qin Feiyang muttered. There's no point in thinking so much. Let's hurry up and attack. The Chief Pavilion Master said. That's right. Are we going to give up just because someone is manipulating us from the shadows? I believe that no one wants to give up. The Beast Emperor added. Who? Yi Zhong and the other ancestral dragons took a deep breath. That was right. Even if someone was controlling these blood puppets, they still had to fight for them. Furthermore, this was just Li Buer's imagination and could not be taken seriously. Attack. Let's end this quickly. Yi Zhong shouted. Kill. Immediately, the 11 overlords rushed out of the enchantment and charged towards the blood puppets. Just like last time, Yi Zhong set up another enchantment outside Qin Feiyang to ensure their safety. Boom! The battle began. 500 to 600 blood puppets were like a group of cold-blooded devils. Their eyes were filled with bloodthirst as they pounced towards the 11 people. All kinds of divine arts clashed in the air. Boom! Crack! The ground around them collapsed and sank. However, the square was still intact. Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist approached the battlefield and watched this scene. Qin Feiyang suddenly asked, "Senior brother mad scientist, did you notice a strange phenomenon?" "What strange phenomenon?" The mad scientist was suspicious. "I remember that when we fought with the blood demon last time, it seemed to be in this direction too. But why weren't the blood puppets here alerted when they were so close? Also, logically speaking, given the cultivation of Yi Zhong's group and the blood demon puppets, the ripples of their battle should have spread to half of Fallen Valley. But when we first came here, there were no traces of damage. But it's only 200 miles away. Is that normal?" Qin Feiyang frowned. The mad scientist was dazed for a moment and then nodded. "Now that you mention it, it's a bit strange. Is there something else hidden in Fallen Valley?" Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed and he suddenly said, "Let's retreat." "Retreat?" The mad scientist paused and asked, "Prepare to kill them. What are you thinking about?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes and said, "I thought of a possibility, so I want to test it out." "Okay." The mad scientist nodded and started to retreat with Qin Feiyang. Wang Ming and the mad scientist followed the two of them to protect them. 1 mile, 2 miles, 5 miles. When they retreated 5 kilometers away, a trace of astonishment appeared on their faces. Because when they retreated here, they couldn't hear the sound of Yi Zhong's group and the blood demon puppets fighting, nor could they feel the ripples of the battle. In other words, the sound and ripples of the battle could only travel 10 miles at most. No way. Although they're suppressing their cultivation, they're still at the peak of the 9 heavens realm. If a battle between experts of this level were to take place outside, even if they were millions of miles away, they would be able to sense it clearly. The mad scientist was shocked. "Let's keep an eye on the chief pavilion master first. Don't let her snatch that divine item," Qin Feiyang said. "Don't even think about it." The mad scientist snorted coldly and quickly approached the battlefield with Qin Feiyang and Wang Ming. It had to be said, Yi Zhong and the others were indeed very strong. In such a short time, more than half of the 500 to 600 blood puppets had been slaughtered by them. Yi Zhong and the Beast Emperor even activated the Law of Fire. All the blood puppets that were killed were immediately burned by the Law of Fire, not giving them any chance to revive. Another short while passed. Finally, not a single blood puppet was left. They were all killed. Although these blood puppets are not as good as the blood demon puppets, they are still troublesome to deal with. Yi Zhong shook his head. Yes. Everyone nodded. Immediately after, everyone stared at the iron box on the stone pillar in the center of the square, their faces full of greed. Crack. Boom. However, at this moment, the ground under everyone's feet suddenly began to shatter. Roar. Accompanied by a series of ruthless roars, 10 huge figures rushed out from the ground. Blood demon puppets. Everyone turned pale with fright. That's right. The ones that suddenly rushed out from the ground were the blood demon puppets. Moreover, the lowest height was 40 meters. The tallest blood demon puppet was even 60 meters tall. A total of 10. How could they fight against 10 blood demon puppets? The mad scientist roared. "Kill them before they transform." His words woke everyone up. Immediately, Yi Zhong and the others pounced on the 10 blood demon puppets. Yi Zhong and the 8 ancestral dragons each took one. The Beast Emperor and the Chief Pavilion Master joined forces to kill one of the blood demon puppets. Because there were only 10 blood demon puppets. On Yi Zhong's side, there were a total of 11 people. If the Chief Pavilion Master and the Beast Emperor could quickly kill one of them, it would be a good thing for everyone. However, the idea was good, but the reality was cruel. Without waiting for them to attack, the 10 blood demon puppets instantly transformed. Their bodies that were hundreds of meters tall were like ancient giants, emitting a violent and fierce aura. Boom! After transforming, The 10 blood demon puppets waved their mountain-like fists and smashed towards Yizhong and the others. Chapter 2674. Boom! In the face of the 10 blood demon puppets' punches, even though Yizhong and the others had evolved a supreme-level divine art in order to kill them in one blow, they were still no match for the 10 blood demon puppets. Even when the supreme-level divine art smashed into the 10 blood demon puppets' fists, it didn't cause them to retreat a single step. On the contrary, the supreme-level divine art of Yizhong and the others was shattered by the 10 blood demon puppets' fists. That was right. Just one punch was enough to shatter the supreme-level divine art of Yizhong and the others. Furthermore, that huge fist, that terrifying power, suddenly landed on their bodies. Poof! Immediately, Yizhong and the others were sent flying and smashed into the mountain behind them, blood gushing out of their mouths. In just one round, Yizhong and the others were seriously injured. Beast Emperor and the Chief Pavilion Master would be better off. After all, it was 2 against 1. But even so, their faces were as pale as paper. The situation isn't good. Madman's gaze darkened. Qin Feiyong also nodded. When they first encountered the blood demon puppets, Yizhong and the others could easily deal with them because there was only one. Think about it. If 11 people working together couldn't even deal with one blood demon puppet, would they still be the strongest existences in the ancient world? But now, there were a total of 10 blood demon puppets. This was almost a one-on-one situation. Even Yizhong and the others didn't have much confidence. Young Lord, why don't Yang Li and I go and help them? Wang Ming asked telepathically. Wang Ming and Yang Li had been guarding Qin Feiyong the whole time. This was their duty. They didn't need to care about anything else. They just needed to protect Qin Feiyong. But the current situation was already beyond what Yizhong and the others could handle. Thus, they couldn't sit back and do nothing. Don't make a move. After all, Beast Emperor and the Chief Pavilion Master know your methods like the back of their hands. In short, I didn't ask you to make a move, so just stay by my side obediently. Qin Feiyong thought to himself. Yes, the two replied respectfully. He then looked at Yizhong and the others. They got up from the ground one after another. His head and face were covered in dust, and he looked extremely miserable. His complexion turned even uglier. Who would have thought that there would be 10 blood demon puppets lying in ambush here? Wait a minute. Ambush? Blood puppets had no consciousness, so how could they possibly set up an ambush? Could it be? Was it really as Qin Feiyong had said, that someone was controlling these blood puppets from behind the scenes? Thinking of this, the group of people couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts as they hurriedly scanned their surroundings. However, he didn't find anyone suspicious in his surroundings. He didn't sense any unfamiliar aura either. The Beast Emperor's gaze flickered as he transmitted his voice. Supreme Cloud, this is our chance. Quick. Understood. The Chief Pavilion Master secretly responded and shouted, You guys hold them back. I'll go get the iron box. After saying that, the Chief Pavilion Master rushed toward the iron box. Regarding this, Yizhong and the other ancestral dragons did not suspect anything. In their opinion, the Chief Pavilion Master did not have the guts to act recklessly. Boom! They released their auras and charged toward the 10 blood demon puppets with the Beast Emperor. However, Qin Feiyong and Madman had cold smiles in their eyes. Sure enough, they were right. What's the plan? Madman thought. We definitely can't expose her now. Because when confronted by Yizhong and the others, she can completely deny it. We have to wait until she escapes with the heaven-defying treasure before stopping her. This way, she won't be able to defend herself. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. Then let's do it. Leave a clone here to confuse her. Madman smiled secretly and a clone appeared. Qin Feiyong and Wang Ming also left a clone behind and then quietly retreated. The attention of the Beast Emperor Yizhong and the others was on the 10 blood demon puppets. The Chief Pavilion Master's attention was also on the iron box. Thus, no one noticed that the 4 of them had already left. Boom! Yizhong and the others clashed with the 10 blood demon puppets again. With their strength, it wasn't a problem for them to stall for a while. Whoosh! The Chief Pavilion Master had already flown to the top of the stone pillar and stared at the iron box close at hand with green light in his eyes. She stretched out her trembling hand and grabbed the iron box. As soon as the iron box was in her hand, she couldn't help but be overjoyed, and her gaze also glanced at Qin Feiyong and the others outside the battlefield. There was a hint of mockery in her eyes. So what if she wasn't afraid of the power of evil? Didn't the heaven-defying treasure still fall into her hands? In this day and age, one had to be smart. Everything else was meaningless. She glanced at Yizhong and the ancestral dragons. A bunch of idiots. You guys can fight slowly. I'll take the heaven-defying treasure and leave first. Swish. The chief pavilion master retracted her gaze and looked around. Then she directly put away the iron box, turned around, and disappeared into the blood fog, running out of Fallen Valley. Seeing this, Yizhong and the ancestral dragon god were stunned. She didn't come to help and left directly? They were definitely not stupid, and they quickly realized that she was trying to escape with the treasure. Escaping with the treasure in front of them? She must have eaten dog guts. Bastard! You're courting death. Yizhong and the others were furious. The chief pavilion master turned pale with fright. Immediately after, his cultivation plummeted to the half-step ninth heaven realm. The chief pavilion master was stunned. This was so familiar. This was the domain of the blood demon. Why would the domain of the blood demon appear here? Hello. Suddenly, another mocking laughter rang out. The voice was also extremely familiar. The chief pavilion master's face became extremely ferocious. He suddenly looked up at the sky above the domain of the blood demon, and saw 4 figures standing in the void above. It was Qin Feiyong, Madman, and Wang Ming. The chief pavilion master roared, "How could you?" Qin Feiyong smiled and said, "We have long seen through your little tricks." Hearing this, the chief pavilion master's face turned pale. "And, before you escaped just now, you must have specially looked at us and mocked us in your heart. I can even think of mocking us in your heart. But I'm sorry, that's just our clones." Madman grinned. Clones? The chief pavilion master's eyes trembled. Were these 2 little bastards human or ghost? Why were their brains so scary? Just now she was still mocking the 2 of them. Only those with brains could survive in this world, and everything else was just floating clouds. But in the blink of an eye, she was slapped hard by the 2 of them. It turned out that she was the stupidest one. Boom! Suddenly, in Fallen Valley, the sound of battle rang out again. Qin Feiyong and the other 3 looked up at Fallen Valley and frowned slightly. Obviously, Yizhong and the others were caught up by the 10 blood demon puppets, and the battle began again. After all, after transforming, the blood demon's strength and speed would increase greatly. And although Yizhong and the others had mastered a supreme auxiliary divine art, the 10 blood demon puppets must have it too. In other words, Yizhong and the others couldn't come out to kill the chief pavilion master now. Haha. Hearing the battle fluctuations, the chief pavilion master also laughed. As long as Yizhong and the others didn't come out, it was still an opportunity for her. And this opportunity was to eliminate Qin Feiyong and Madman. Do you think you have the right to be arrogant just because Yizhong and the others haven't come out? Madman retracted his gaze and looked down at the chief pavilion master with contempt. Don't you have it? The chief pavilion master smiled coldly. If it's outside, then there is. But in hell, you're just at the Great Perfection Ninth Heaven's realm. Madman said. Great Perfection Ninth Heaven's realm? The chief pavilion master was slightly taken aback, and the sneer in his eyes deepened. I really hope your strength is as powerful as your mouth. Step back, I'll kill her. Boom! Madman's aura erupted, and he instantly rushed into the blood demon domain and punched at the chief pavilion master. Qin Feiyong and Wang Ming really didn't make a move. They stood outside the blood demon domain and watched quietly. Chapter 2675. You really think you're something. The chief pavilion master snorted. Although Madman's cultivation had plummeted to the half-step ninth heaven's realm, he was only at the initial ninth heaven's realm. For her it was nothing at all. Boom! A wave of water rolled out, exuding an apocalyptic aura. The law of water. The power of law is above all other powers. Madman might not be her opponent. Wang Ming transmitted his voice. No rush. If we really can't beat her, then we'll help. Qin Feiyong said. Although he had sparred with Madman before, he didn't know much about his strength. Moreover, Madman rarely made a move. Generally, when he made a move, it was like crushing dry weeds. In such a situation, it was hard to see Madman's true strength. What he was most curious about was the blood demon art. Madman had once said that there was a fifth move, but until now he had never seen it. Boom! The wave of water seemed to cover the sky and the earth as it rushed toward Madman. Madman didn't dodge at all and punched out. With a loud bang, Madman was actually forced back, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Moreover, at the moment of collision, the law of water erupted with an apocalyptic aura, and the blood demon domain immediately collapsed. The Chief Pavilion Master's cultivation also instantly recovered to the ninth heaven's realm. Oh no! Without the suppression of cultivation, Madman is even less likely to be her opponent, Yongli exclaimed. Qin Feiyong was silent. If Madman only had this much means, he definitely wouldn't dare to challenge the Chief Pavilion Master. Your divine art has lost its effect. Let me see what else you have. The Chief Pavilion Master smiled coldly. With her cultivation recovered to the ninth heaven's realm, she was naturally more confident. Sunflower Water God Cannon Arrow Rain. With a point of her finger, divine power poured out like a waterfall, turning into countless water arrows that shattered the void and the earth. They were densely packed as they rushed toward Madman. The aura was terrifying beyond compare. This was a supreme grade deity art. But Madman didn't panic at all, and instead revealed a cynical smile. Boom! With a thought, the third move of the blood demon suddenly appeared. Bloodthirsty Demon King. His body was hundreds of feet tall, and he wore blood-red armor. He also held a blood-red halberd in his hand. He looked like a demon king. A monstrous murderous aura enveloped the entire area. Kill! Madman waved his hand, and Bloodthirsty Demon King immediately brandished the halberd in his hand, slashing through the sky towards the rain of arrows. Rumble! Clang! Immediately, a series of earth-shaking explosions resounded in this world. A destructive aura spread out in all directions. Puff! Within a few breaths, the Bloodthirsty Demon King shattered into pieces. Madman was also sent flying. He spat out mouthfuls of blood and his face was pale. At that time, even the gods won't be able to save him, Wang Ming secretly shouted. Qin Feiyong didn't speak, nor did he make a move. He had confidence in Madman. Since he dared to be so arrogant, he must have a way to deal with it. I really don't understand. What ability do you have to be so arrogant with me? The Chief Pavilion Master looked at the ice sculpture that Madman had turned into, his eyes full of contempt. Immediately after, she suddenly raised her head to look at Qin Feiyong, two cold lights bursting out of her eyes. Wash your neck clean, I'll kill you later. Kill me? Qin Feiyong was taken aback and said with a faint smile, wait until you kill Madman first. It's too easy for me to kill him now. Open your eyes wide and watch for me. The Chief Pavilion Master's murderous aura burst out, and she rushed to the ice sculpture that Madman had turned into, and raised her hand to slap it. As long as the ice sculpture shattered, Madman's body would also shatter. She had used this move to kill who knew how many strong enemies, so she was full of confidence. However, just as she was about to slap it, a terrifying murderous aura suddenly emerged from the ice sculpture. With a crack, the ice on Madman's body immediately shattered. The Madman also appeared. The Chief Pavilion Master's body stiffened. He could actually break free? So cold. She looked at Madman again. He stood in place, holding his shoulders with both hands, his body shivering. His face was also pale. Although he had broken free, the cold current entered his body, making him feel an unprecedented cold. And the moment he was frozen, he really felt that he was going to die. Fortunately, he had a way to break the ice, otherwise he would really be killed by the Chief Pavilion Master. This is impossible. The Chief Pavilion Master shook her head. Her face was full of disbelief. A ninth heaven stage cultivator could actually break the ice? Even if Madman used a supreme level god art, it was impossible. Because the Sunflower Water God Cannon was also a supreme level god art. So strange, Qin Feiyong murmured. Looking at Madman's eyes, there seemed to be a trace of bewilderment. What's strange? Wang Ming and the other two looked at Qin Feiyong suspiciously. Qin Feiyong didn't answer, and kept staring at Madman. Don't dawdle. What other methods do you have? Hurry up and use them. Madman flexed his muscles and bones, looked at the chief pavilion master who was close at hand, and laughed cruelly. Hearing this, the chief pavilion master immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation, and the palm that he hadn't slapped out before suddenly slapped at Madman's chest. Madman bared his teeth, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. Suddenly, a set of blood-red armor appeared on his body, and a murderous aura filled the sky. The chief pavilion master's palm actually didn't cause any harm to Madman when it hit the armor. Huh! Qin Feiyong was stunned. Chapter 2676. It's really the power of laws. Qin Feiyong murmured. This guy actually comprehended the power of laws without anyone noticing? Not good enough. He didn't even tell him such an important thing. Then again, this lunatic's potential was really terrifying. Because as far as he knew, the only people who could comprehend the power of laws before stepping into the imperishable realm were him and the lunatic. They're both monsters. Wang Ming and Yang Li looked at each other and couldn't help but feel weak physically and mentally. As the divine emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace, who knew how long they had been in the imperishable realm. But until now, they hadn't comprehended a single power of laws. And as far as they knew, currently, there were only a handful of people who had comprehended the power of laws in the entire divine land. The Dragon Slayer Palace had Qin Batian, Lu Zhengyang, Venerable Beast and Supreme Cloud. The dragons had Venerable Dragon and Yi Zhong. The dragon god naturally didn't need to be mentioned. With such a powerful cultivation, he must have comprehended the power of laws. Other than that, there was no one else. And everyone knew that it was impossible to comprehend the power of laws before reaching the imperishable realm. But in front of them, Qin Feiyong and the lunatic actually comprehended the power of laws before breaking through to the imperishable realm. What kind of monsters were they? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. The chief pavilion master got up from the ground, his hair disheveled as he stared at the lunatic. His face covered in mist was full of disbelief. It was already shocking that Qin Feiyong could comprehend the power of laws before breaking through to the imperishable realm. But now, another lunatic came out. Impossible? What you can't do doesn't mean that others can't do it. So please don't judge others with your shallow vision. Especially me. The lunatic smiled domineeringly, and the law of slaughter rolled out, overwhelming the chief pavilion master. I don't believe it. The chief pavilion master roared hysterically. The law of water surged out, carrying a monstrous aura as it rushed toward the law of slaughter. Boom! The two powers of laws met again. Just like before, there was no suspense at all. The madman's slaughter laws were completely unstoppable. The chief pavilion master was sent flying again, blood spurting out of his mouth. Blood devil domain. Madman let out a low roar, and the blood demon domain opened again, instantly enveloping the chief pavilion master. His cultivation base had plummeted to the half-nine heavens realm. Following closely, the madman waved his hand, and the law of slaughter instantly turned into a blood-colored arrow that shot into the chief pavilion master's forehead. With a shrill scream, the head of the chief pavilion master exploded on the spot. His divine soul was also instantly annihilated. So strong. Wang Ming and the other man were utterly horrified. Was this the strength of a madman? All along, their attention had been on Qin Feiyong. But little did they know that this madman was also a terrifying monster that was not the slightest bit inferior to Qin Feiyong. How terrifying would a person like him be if he stepped into the imperishable realm? Trash. The madman smiled disdainfully, and the blood demon domain dissipated. Boom! But at that moment, a terrifying aura emerged in the sky. The madman looked up and saw the power of the law of light descending from the sky. Wang Ming and Yang Li were also stunned, and hurriedly looked at Qin Feiyong. Because the person who had suddenly attacked the madman was none other than Qin Feiyong. Attacking the madman? What was young lord doing? Seeing this, the madman didn't say anything, and directly mobilized the law of slaughter to attack the law of light. Boom! The two powers of laws met. The scene of a crushing force appeared once again. Under the madman's law of slaughter, Qin Feiyong's law of light was instantly annihilated like a baby. Qin Feiyong retreated a few steps, and a trickle of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. You want to try again? The madman waved his hand and withdrew the law of slaughter, looking at Qin Feiyong mockingly. How would I dare? Qin Feiyong smiled bitterly. So young lord was just testing how strong the madman's law of slaughter was. Wang Ming and Yang Li were enlightened. The madman withdrew the law of slaughter, and his appearance returned to normal, without the slightest bit of hostility or malice. Then, he stepped in front of the chief pavilion master and took the interspatial ring from his hand. Hey, how dare you snatch my things? You really overestimate yourself. The madman grinned, and with a wave of his hand, buried the chief pavilion master's body. Wang Ming shook his head and said, Actually, Supreme Cloud's means are far more than that. Yes, we know Supreme Cloud's strength too well. Without any heaven-defying godly items, even Emperor Qin and Emperor Yang can't defeat her. Just now, she was just shocked by your law of slaughter, and you killed her swiftly, so she didn't have time to show all her trump cards. Yang Li also looked at the madman and said, So what? If I can kill her once, I can kill her a second time. The madman sneered. Sure enough, you're the same as young lord. Wang Ming and Yang Li smiled bitterly at each other. Domineering and arrogant. But the point was that they couldn't refute him, because they did have the capital. We can't underestimate them. After all, the chief pavilion master is not someone Wu Baichuan and the others can compare with. No matter how strong Wu Baichuan and the others are, they are only at the perfect ninth heaven's realm. But the chief pavilion master, speaking of this, Qin Feiyong turned to look at Wang Ming and Yang Li and asked, What's the chief pavilion master's cultivation level? Great achievement, eternal realm. Wang Ming said. Yes. Qin Feiyong gasped. Great achievement, eternal realm was indeed at the same level as ancestral dragon. So they couldn't be careless. The madman could kill the chief pavilion master here because the chief pavilion master had suppressed her cultivation level. When they returned to Shenzhou, the chief pavilion master would no longer have to suppress her cultivation level, and the madman would naturally be no match for her. It's okay. With my talent, it's only a matter of time before I step into the eternal realm. The madman waved his hand and checked the chief pavilion master's interspatial ring. Qin Feiyong shook his head and smiled bitterly. This guy really didn't take it seriously. That's right. With the door of potential opened, the time array in the ancient castle and endless resources, it was only a matter of time before they stepped into the eternal realm. But don't forget, they still needed a long time to grow. Besides, the difference between each small realm and the eternal realm was like heaven and earth. After all, it was very fun for a great achievement eternal realm cultivator to kill a small achievement eternal realm cultivator in seconds. So when the time came, even if they had incredible means, they might not be able to defeat the chief pavilion master who had reached the great achievement eternal realm. What the hell? The madman suddenly raised his eyebrows and cursed. The chief pavilion master of the treasure pavilion only has this little thing. He's too poor. Qin Feiyong looked at him suspiciously. The madman took out an iron box and threw the interspatial ring to Qin Feiyong. Qin Feiyong checked it, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. Poor indeed. There was nothing in the interspatial ring except elixirs, divine crystals and soul stones. Hell is so dangerous. How could Supreme Cloud bring treasures in? Wang Ming shook his head. Yang Li also said with a smile, Supreme Cloud had emptied the interspatial ring before entering hell. Qin Feiyong asked, Then where did she hide her treasures? It should be in her residence. Wang Ming said. Where does she live? Qin Feiyong was curious. I don't know. Supreme Cloud has always been suspicious, so even we, Emperor Qin, Emperor Yang and Venerable Beast, don't know where she lives. Wang Ming and the madman shook their heads. That's a pity. I was thinking of going to her home when we returned to the Divine Land. Qin Feiyong chuckled. Wang Ming and the madman couldn't help but smile bitterly. This young lord was indeed someone who was not afraid of anything. Qin Feiyong, do you think this iron box? The madman suddenly spoke, his face full of hesitation. What do you want to do? Qin Feiyong was stunned and immediately became vigilant. Do you think the power of rules will really come if we break the seal and open the iron box? The madman asked. I knew it. Qin Feiyong's face darkened, and he said, "Do you think Senior Ghost King will lie to us? Why don't I give it a try? Anyway, your 9-leaf Fire Lotus and Red Sword Soul can block the power of rules," the madman said. "What's that? Block the power of rules?" Wang Ming and the madman were surprised. They didn't know what happened when the dragon god appeared, so when they heard the madman's words, they were shocked. Please don't. It's not like you don't know that I can't control these 2 battle souls at all. What if something happens? It's too late to regret." Qin Feiyong hurriedly stopped him. "But I really want to see what kind of heaven-defying divine artifact is inside." The madman was very conflicted. Qin Feiyong's eyelids twitched, and he directly snatched the iron box from his hand and said, "I'll return it to you when we return to the divine land." This was definitely not a joke, because they were different from the Chief Pavilion Master and the others. Before the Chief Pavilion Master and the others entered the Nether King's hell, they left their souls outside, so it didn't matter even if they were killed. But he and the madman only had 1 life. If an accident happened, they wouldn't even have the chance to salvage it. "I've never seen such a timid guy like you." The madman pursed his lips. Qin Feiyong turned a deaf ear and directly put the iron box into his universe ring. "Young lord, congratulations. Together with the heaven-defying divine artifact in the Blood Lake, we now have 2 divine artifacts." Wang Ming and the madman smiled. "What? 2? Don't you know that this one is mine?" The madman raised his eyebrows. Wang Ming smiled and said, "You guys are as close as brothers. What's there to distinguish between? Why not? Even blood brothers have to settle accounts clearly. We'll talk about it later." "Who's his brother?" "In terms of seniority, he's my junior, understand?" The madman snorted coldly. "Junior?" The 2 of them were stunned. "That's right. I'm friends with Qin Badian, so Qin Feiyong is Qin Baishan's descendant. If he's not my junior, then what is he?" After saying that, the madman looked at Qin Feiyong and chuckled. "Kid, what do you think? Do you think I want to talk to you?" Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. "He's friends with the Qin Emperor?" Wang Ming and the madman looked at each other. It seemed that they had underestimated this madman. Boom! Crack! The battle in Fallen Valley had yet to stop. Wang Ming looked at Fallen Valley and asked, "Should we go and help? Since you're so kind, you can go yourself. I'm not in the mood anyway." The madman shook his head, took out a life divine pill, and threw it into his mouth. Wang Ming smiled bitterly. This madman's personality was really unpredictable. Chapter 2677. Qin Feiyong had no intention of helping, because these people had to be dealt with sooner or later. If they were killed by the blood demon puppets, it would save them a lot of trouble. However, Qin Feiyong turned to look at Madman and frowned. "You shouldn't have been impulsive and killed the Chief Pavilion Master just now." "Huh?" Madman looked at him in confusion. "You know my plan. I'm not going to kill her. I'm going to make her submit." Qin Feiyong said. "Will she submit so easily?" Madman rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyong. "We still have to give it a try." Qin Feiyong said. "Why are you in such a hurry? There's still a long way to go. There will be opportunities in the future. Besides, don't we still have the Beast Emperor? The current Beast Emperor is easier to deal with. As long as we subdue the Beast Emperor, the Chief Pavilion Master will find out that she's alone and helpless. She might come to us on her own accord and surrender." Madman said. Wang Ming frowned and said, "The chances of her surrendering on her own accord are very slim." "That's right. After all, the resources of the Dragon Slayer Palace are provided by the Treasure Pavilion. The Dragon Slayer Palace can't do without the support of the Treasure Pavilion." Yang Li added, "Isn't that simple? We'll snatch the Treasure Pavilion from her," Madman said domineeringly. The 2 of them looked at Madman in shock. Snatch the Treasure Pavilion from the Chief Pavilion Master? That wouldn't be easy. Madman glanced at Qin Feiyong and smiled. "Do you think Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang have started to take action?" "I don't know." Qin Feiyong shook his head. "Take action?" Wang Ming and Yang Li were bewildered again. Now is a good opportunity to snatch the Treasure Pavilion. I hope they don't miss it. Madman smiled. Qin Feiyong nodded. Snatched the treasure pavilion? Wang Ming and Yang Li looked at each other. As the divine emperors of the Dragon Slayer Palace, how could they be stupid? Hearing Madman's last sentence, they immediately understood. Turned out that Qin Badian and Lu Zhongyang were planning to seize control of the treasure pavilion, while the chief pavilion master was in the Netherworld King's hell. In that case, if Qin Badian and Lu Li really succeeded, then wouldn't the chief pavilion master be a general without an army? If that was the case, they might really take the initiative to surrender when the time came. But it was also possible. A cornered dog leaps over the wall to seek refuge with the dragons. In short, it was hard to predict. Senior brother Madman, I heard you say something about the power of laws at the initial stage. What does that mean? Qin Feiyang was curious. The power of law is divided into several stages. The first stage is the entry level. That is to say, people like you who have just comprehended the power of law. Although I don't know much about the chief pavilion master, looking at the strength of her power of law, she's only at the entry level. The second stage, initial success. Currently, my law of slaughter is at the initial stage. The third stage is the small success stage. The fourth stage, great success. The fifth stage, perfection. The sixth stage, great perfection. Reaching the sixth stage, great perfection is equivalent to completely comprehending the profound meaning of a law. At this stage, one has the ability to bestow the power of law to a heaven-defying object. Madman said. There are still so many stages. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What else do you think? Once you comprehend the power of law, you can control the profound meaning inside? Wishful thinking. In this world, no matter what, there is a process. Madman said. Qin Feiyang nodded. Moreover, apart from the entry level, every time you reach a new stage, you can comprehend a new profound ability. This profound ability is like a divine art, but its power is comparable to a heaven-defying divine art. In fact, if you completely master this profound ability, its power is even stronger than a heaven-defying divine art. Madman said. Really? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Madman nodded. Then, when you enter the initial stage, what profound ability did you master? Qin Feiyang asked. You want to know? I won't tell you. Madman chuckled. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes. Was there a need to be so mysterious? Wang Ming asked. Then, when did you comprehend the law of slaughter? Yes. When did you comprehend it? Qin Feiyang frowned. Previously, he had thought that the madman had comprehended it after entering the divine land without anyone knowing. But now that he thought about it carefully, something was wrong. Because, if he comprehended it after entering divine land, how could he enter the initial stage so quickly? After all, his law of light was still at the entry level. In other words, this guy comprehended the law of slaughter before him. It's very early. Madman thought for a while, then smiled at Qin Feiyang and said proudly, You haven't entered Zhouqian Palace yet, but I have already comprehended the law of slaughter. What? Qin Feiyang was shocked and cried out, Don't tell me you already comprehended the law of slaughter when you were a divine lord? Yes. Is there a problem? Madman nodded. Comprehended the law of slaughter when you were a divine lord? Qin Feiyang was a little better, but when Wang Ming and Wang Ming heard this, their eyes widened in anger. Isn't this too outrageous? Qin Feiyang comprehended the law of light when he was a divine lord, and this was already shocking enough. But this madman actually comprehended the power of law when he was a divine lord? Was he even more monstrous than Qin Feiyang? Madman said, Do you remember that I once said that there were thousands of years when I didn't cultivate? Of course. Everyone thought that it was because of your foster father's death that you abandoned yourself. Qin Feiyang nodded. When he entered the Nine Heavens realm, Madman had the look of a loafer. One had to know. Back then, Madman's cultivation was even stronger than Ancestor's. But because of those thousands of years of delay, Ancestor not only caught up to him, but also far surpassed him. I also seem to have said that I was creating a divine art for those thousands of years. Madman said. Qin Feiyang nodded. This was what he said when he killed Feng Wenhai. Madman had created the blood demon art during that time, and had even upgraded it to the legendary level. After my foster father's death, it was indeed a huge blow to me. I was depressed for a while and didn't want to cultivate. I felt that cultivating wasn't very interesting, but the heavens didn't allow it. Inadvertently, I created the blood demon art, and accidentally I comprehended the law of slaughter. Tell me, why am I such a genius? Sometimes even I can't help but be jealous of myself. The madman's words at the beginning made Qin Feiyong a little sad. After all, Madman treated his foster father as his biological father. How could he not be sad when his biological father was killed? But as he spoke, he became more and more narcissistic, making people want to slap him. Wang Ming, and Wang Ming in particular, really wanted to kick the smug madman. What inadvertently created the blood demon art? What accidentally comprehended the law of slaughter? Wasn't this deliberately infuriating? Go and see how many people can create a brand new divine art. How many people can comprehend the power of laws? Inadvertently? A moment of carelessness? It was really infuriating. Don't be envious. I was born with it, you can't be envious. Madman looked at the two of them and grinned. Young lord, I want to beat him up. Wang Ming said with a black face. Me too. Yang Li nodded. Thinking about it, they had seen many people in their lives, but they had never seen such a cocky person. Beat me up? It's not that I look down on you, but can you do it? Madman laughed. Hearing this, the two of them blew their beards and glared, but they couldn't help but feel helpless in their hearts. To be honest, after understanding Madman, they really didn't have the confidence. He was a monster like Qin Feiyong. Whoosh! At this moment, a bloody voice could be heard running out of the fallen valley. Qin Feiyong and the other three raised their heads to take a look, and their expressions froze. The person who came out was Yi Zhong. Just as they were about to go over, they saw the Beast Emperor and the various ancestral dragons running out of Fallen Valley one after another. They were all in an extremely sorry state. All the ancestral dragons had broken arms and legs. Immediately after, 10 huge figures rushed to the edge of Fallen Valley. They were the 10 blood demon puppets. But the point was that Lunatic was such a person. He was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. If you want to be tough, he will be tougher than you. If you want to continue searching for treasures in Fallen Valley, then shut your mouth. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with the woman in white and transmitted his voice. When the woman in white heard this, she also felt powerless. That's right. They had to rely on Lunatic to enter Fallen Valley. Moreover, after the previous battle, they already had a lot of evil force in their bodies. Only a madman would be able to quickly devour this evil energy. If they really angered Lunatic, then their trip to Nether King's Hell would really come to an end. Suddenly, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon seemed to have thought of something as his eyes trembled. He hurriedly looked at Lunatic and asked, Little Lunatic, you didn't undo the seal on the iron box, right? No. Lunatic shook his head. That's good. This seal must not be undone. Because once the seal is broken and the iron box is opened, the heaven-defying divine item will appear and the power of laws will descend. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said in a deep voice. I know. Lunatic said. You know? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon was stunned. He turned to Yi Zhong and asked, You told them? I don't think I told them. Yi Zhong thought for a while and shook his head. Then how did little Lunatic know? Everyone looked at Lunatic suspiciously. When I was imprisoned in the ancient city of Qingyu, there were 2 blood demons guarding me. I heard it from them. Lunatic said. I see. Everyone nodded. He was really killed. He looked at the Beast Emperor again. At this moment, he lowered his head and looked at the corpse of the Chief Pavilion Master in the mud. His face was full of disbelief. Putting aside the Chief Pavilion Master's strength, just the power of laws, how could a lunatic deal with the Chief Pavilion Master who had the power of laws? What kind of means did he use? Regarding this, the Beast Emperor was puzzled. He didn't want to believe it. He felt that there was something fishy about this, but he didn't know what exactly was going on. Lunatic suddenly turned to look at the Beast Emperor with a trace of playfulness in his eyes. He smiled and said, Senior Beast Emperor, what's there to see about a dead person? The Beast Emperor's body stiffened. He turned to look at Lunatic and said with a smile, Indeed, there's nothing to see. After saying that, he buried the Chief Pavilion Master's corpse and walked towards everyone. Lunatic said. I thought Senior Beast Emperor was mourning for the Chief Pavilion Master. Mourning? The Beast Emperor was slightly taken aback. He shook his head and said, she used us to snatch the heaven-defying treasure. She deserved to die. Why should I mourn for her? Haha, Lunatic laughed loudly. How heartless. He ran in front of the 10 blood demon puppets and shouted, hey, 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 come out if you have the guts and fight with me for 300 rounds. Everyone's mouth twitched. These were all blood puppets without consciousness. What was the use of shouting like this? As expected, the 10 blood demon puppets didn't react at all. Qin Feiyong glanced at the 10 blood demon puppets and then looked at the evil force in Fallen Valley. His eyes flashed. Suddenly, a bold guess appeared in his mind. Shua. Immediately after, Qin Feiyong landed beside Madman with a single step and whispered a few words into his ear. Madman froze for a moment and frowned. Will it work? How will we know if we don't try? Qin Feiyong said. Okay. Madman nodded. So, immediately, the two of them flew straight into Fallen Valley. What are they doing? Yi Zhong and the others were shocked. They're courting death. The Beast Emperor sneered in his heart. Even they couldn't deal with these blood demon puppets, let alone these two little bastards. They were simply overestimating themselves. Boom! As soon as Qin Feiyong and Madman entered Fallen Valley, the 10 blood demon puppets immediately waved their mountain-like fists and charged at them. Even the bold Qin Feiyong and Madman couldn't help but feel fear from that terrifying aura. Blood demon domain open! Madman roared. The blood demon domain instantly appeared and enveloped the 10 blood demon puppets. A shocking scene appeared. The cultivation of the 10 blood demon puppets fell to the half-step 9th heaven realm. It works? Madman paused for a moment and was overjoyed. If the blood demon domain was useful, then it would be much easier to deal with them. After all, these blood demon puppets were 5 minor realms weaker. After their cultivation fell, the speed and strength of the 10 blood demon puppets also plummeted. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other and took the opportunity to rush behind the 10 blood demon puppets. Then divine power surged out and turned into a monstrous flood that slammed toward the 10 blood demon puppets. Boom! With a loud bang, the 10 blood demon puppets flew out of Fallen Valley like cannonballs. With a bang, they smashed into a mountain in the distance. Chapter 2679. Yi Zhong roared. Take this opportunity to get rid of them. That moment, a group of people rushed towards the 10 blood demon puppets. They didn't expect that. Madman's blood demon domain could even deprive the blood puppets of their cultivation. However, before they even got close, they stopped and looked at the 10 blood demon puppets in shock. Roar! The 10 blood demon puppets were actually struggling and roaring on the ground. What was even more strange was that their bodies were rotting at this moment, and black smoke was rising from their bodies. What's the situation? This scene was completely out of their expectations. Yi Zhong and the others were puzzled. Sure enough, Qin Feiyong flew over with Madman. Looking at the appearance of the 10 blood demon puppets, he smiled. And everyone looked at Qin Feiyong. I thought of a question earlier. Why can the blood puppets in Fallen Valley be reborn? After careful consideration, my gaze was focused on the evil force. Because this is the only explanation. Their rebirth must be related to the special evil force in Fallen Valley. So, I had a bold guess in my heart. Leaving Fallen Valley without the support of the evil force, they might die on their own. So I went in with Madman and blasted them out. In the end, sure enough, as I expected, these blood puppets can only survive in Fallen Valley. Once they leave Fallen Valley, they will die on their own. Qin Feiyong smiled faintly. Amazing. Everyone looked at Qin Feiyong with admiration. He could even think of this. This brain was indeed not ordinary. Yi Zhong said proudly, of course, don't you know whose disciple he is? What does it have to do with you? Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon directly retorted. How is it not related? He was taught by this old man. For him to be so smart, it must be this old man's credit. Old Black, you are envious. Yi Zhong smiled proudly. Envious of you? In terms of excellence, this senior's disciple is much better than your disciple. The Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon snorted. Outstanding? Other than being able to absorb the power of evil, this old man really didn't find him that outstanding. Yi Zhong sneered. Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads and smile bitterly. You're still in the mood to fight over this? I'm convinced. Enough. What's there to fight about? Both of your disciples are outstanding, okay? You're already so old, don't you find it embarrassing? The white-clothed woman looked at the two of them speechlessly. Hearing this, Yi Zhong and Yi Zichen's expressions immediately became extremely awkward. Below, the 10 blood demon puppets had already turned into ashes. Cough cough. Yi Zhong coughed dryly, looked at everyone and asked, then shall we continue? Nonsense, of course we'll continue. The woman in white said. Since he could find a heaven-defying divine object, he would definitely be able to find a second one. A third one. The madman waved his hand and formed another divine power barrier before bringing everyone into Fallen Valley. Along the way, the madman also helped Qin Feiyong devour the evil power in his body. Because the madman didn't activate the barrier when fighting with the 10 blood demon puppets, a lot of evil power was transferred into Qin Feiyong's body. They returned to the square once again. The blood demon puppets were all killed, and the square was dead silent at this moment. Let's look around. Let's see if there are any other divine objects hidden, Yi Zhong said. The group began to search the square. But Qin Feiyong suddenly turned around and looked at the blood mist on the left. It seemed that he could faintly see the mysterious blood shadow. What are you doing? The madman looked at him suspiciously. Looks like it's not an illusion, Qin Feiyong whispered. The madman was slightly taken aback and asked doubtfully, what's not an illusion? Blood shadow. Qin Feiyong transmitted his voice. Blood shadow? The madman was taken aback. Yes. As early as when I encountered the first blood demon puppet, I found a blood shadow. But at that time I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, so I didn't pay much attention to it. But just now I saw that blood shadow over there again. Seeing it twice, it's definitely not a trick of the eyes, Qin Feiyong secretly said. The madman followed Qin Feiyong's gaze but found nothing. However, he didn't doubt it, because he understood Qin Feiyong. Since Qin Feiyong said there was a blood shadow, then there must be one. However, why would there be a mysterious blood shadow in the Fallen Valley? What was the true body of this figure? Could actually wander in the Fallen Valley? The two didn't make a sound, but secretly paid attention. There's nothing. A moment later, Yi Zhong and the others turned the square upside down, but they didn't even find a legendary divine artifact or secret art. Then let's continue, the madman said. The group of people continued to circle around Fallen Valley, searching every inch of the area. Soon, they encountered a group of blood puppets, but they weren't blood demon puppets, so they were quickly dealt with. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months passed. For example, there were now over 1,000 legendary and supreme level artifacts. It was the same for secret arts. And now they were already 1,000 miles deep into the Fallen Valley. The number of blood puppets they encountered was also increasing. Among them, there was no lack of blood demon puppets. If they could avoid them, they would avoid them. If they couldn't avoid them, they would fight. If they couldn't win, they would use the old method to lure the blood demon puppets out of the Fallen Valley and let them perish on their own. The young man seemed to be made of iron. The evil power wandering around his body couldn't enter his body at all. Even the snow python on his shoulder was the same. How did he do it? One had to know. This evil power was pervasive and unstoppable. But it couldn't enter the young man's body? Look! Blood Dragon Ancestral Dragon suddenly roared and stared at the young man's left hand. In the young man's left hand, he was holding a palm-sized iron box. There was a very obvious sealing aura on it. A palm-sized iron box. This must be a heaven-defying secret art. Whether it was Yi Zhong and the others or Qin Feiyong and Frenzy, their eyes were full of desire. The heaven-defying secret arts of hell are even rarer than the heaven-defying artifacts. We have come to hell so many times, but we have only obtained one heaven-defying secret art. Ancestral Dragon transmitted his voice. So little? Qin Feiyong and Frenzy were surprised. That's right. I believe you also know that the Sunset Divine Bow and other heaven-defying artifacts were all found by us in hell. Think about it, we can find such heaven-defying artifacts, but we can only find one. How rare is it? But now, it actually fell into the hands of this person. Ancestral Dragon's tone was very gloomy. Qin Feiyong secretly said. Then who did you give the heaven-defying secret art to? Of course it was Dragon Sovereign. But Lord Dragon Sovereign didn't cultivate it. It seems to have been given to Her Highness. Ancestral Dragon transmitted his voice. Her Highness? Qin Feiyong was slightly taken aback and asked, Her Highness the Princess. He had fought with Princess Dragons more than once, but why had he never seen her use a heaven-defying secret art? Not Her Highness the Princess but His Highness the Prince. Ancestral Dragon secretly said. What? Prince? Qin Feiyong and Frenzy looked at each other. Yes, Prince. Ancestral Dragon nodded. This? Qin Feiyong and Frenzy were stunned. Dragon Sovereign and Dragon God actually had a son? Why had they never heard of it before? Let's not talk about this first. Hurry up and think of a way to snatch this heaven-defying secret art from this person. Ancestral Dragon secretly said. It seemed that he was determined to get it. Chapter 2680. Snatch it from his hands? Hearing Ancestral Dragon's words, everyone fell silent, including Qin Feiyong and Madman. To be honest, they didn't want to become enemies with the young man, because the young man's strength was obvious to all, and they couldn't afford to offend him. Moreover, what they saw before might only be the tip of the iceberg. Besides, the young man had always taken care of Qin Feiyong, and with Qin Feiyong's character, he wouldn't do anything ungrateful. As for Yi Zhong, needless to say, he had already fought with the young man and personally experienced the young man's strength. It was very irrational to offend this person. But this heaven-defying divine art was indeed too tempting. What are you afraid of? Although his methods are strong, he is now in the Nether King's hell. Even if he has a heaven-defying divine item and a heaven-defying divine art, he will still be restricted. In other words, he is just an ordinary person now. We can join hands and get rid of him. Ancestral Dragon transmitted. That's right. This person's origin is unknown, and his motive for entering the Dragon God Palace is also unknown. In the future, he is very likely to be a strong enemy of us dragons. Now that we have the chance, it's good to get rid of him, the woman in white said. Yi Zhong hesitated for a moment. He turned to Qin Feiyong and sent a voice transmission. Li Bu Er, what do you think? Ancestral Dragon and the others also looked at Qin Feiyong. Because all along, the relationship between Qin Feiyong and the young man was somewhat unfathomable. Although Yi Zhong personally went to investigate and the two were just strangers, it was really hard to judge whether it was true or not. Ancestral Dragon's eyes flashed and transmitted. Yi Zhong, this is also a good opportunity to test Li Bu Er. What do you mean? Yi Zhong secretly asked. If he agrees to help now, it proves that he has nothing to do with the young man. But if he doesn't agree, it proves that they were lying to you before. Ancestral Dragon said. Yi Zhong raised his eyebrows. After interacting with him for so long, he understood quite a bit about this disciple of his. He was a young man who knew how to repay kindness. Even if he had only met the youth by chance, based on the care the youth had given him in the Dragon God Palace, he would not attack the youth. And this was something that Yi Zhong knew, but not the other ancestral dragons. Furthermore, in the eyes of the ancestral dragons, it was only right for them to intervene, because humans were just that selfish. Even family members would stab each other in the back for the sake of treasures. What's more, it was just a chance encounter. Moreover, what they were facing now was a heaven-defying divine art. They did not believe that there was anyone in the world who could resist this temptation. If you want to fight, I won't object. But I can't do it. Qin Feiyong took a deep breath and shook his head. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said solemnly, You are indeed related to him. Think what you want. In any case, I can't do anything. Qin Feiyong's attitude was very firm. Being ungrateful was something he would never do. All right. After dealing with him, I'll settle the score with you. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon secretly snorted, looked up at the youth and asked, You are the Dragon God Palace's law enforcement hall master, right? Yes. The youth nodded slowly. As a member of the Dragon God Palace, You are also a member of us dragons. This heaven-defying divine object, are you going to give it to us? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon said. The youth was stunned, thought for a while and said, makes sense. Then give it to me. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon stretched out his hand. Sure. The youth nodded, jumped down, and walked towards Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon. So straightforward? Everyone looked at the youth in astonishment. They thought that such an unreasonable request would anger the youth, but who would have thought that the youth would be so straightforward? Even the Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon himself was extremely surprised. It can't be. He doesn't even care about the heaven-defying divine art. Lunatic muttered. Who knows? Qin Feiyang shrugged. In short, in his eyes this youth was as elusive as a mystery. Soon, the youth walked in front of Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon and handed the iron box in his hand to him. It seems that he is still a little afraid of us dragons. Seeing this, the corners of the mouths of the various ancestral dragons could not help but raise a smile. Because other than being afraid of them dragons, there was no other reason to explain it. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon did not stand on ceremony and reached out to grab the iron box. However, at this moment, the youth raised his eyebrows, looked at Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon, and said, You really dare to take it? What? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon was stunned, not understanding, but the youth did not speak again, and directly kicked Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's lower abdomen. And his strength was very strong. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon immediately spat out a mouthful of blood, and his entire body flew out. This sudden scene caught the group of people off guard, and they were stunned, looking at the youth. You're courting death. When they came back to their senses, the other ancestral dragons were immediately furious. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon stabilized his body, and also rushed over in anger. How dare he play with him? But the youth turned a blind eye to the anger of the group of people, and slowly put away the iron box and said, You even dare to snatch my things, I really admire your courage. What are you being arrogant for? This is the hell of Nether King. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon roared, and the power of the dragon god rolled out, and he threw a punch at the youth. Quickly retreat. Yi Zhong looked at Frenzy and Qin Feiyang and shouted. Whoosh! That moment, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy retreated quickly. Wang Ming and Yang Li followed beside the two of them, protecting them. I know that we are in the hell of Nether King now. I don't need you to remind me. The young man yawned and slowly raised his arm, catching the Black Dragon Ancestral Gragon's fist with ease. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's fist immediately stopped in the void. What? Everyone turned pale with fright. One must know. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon's punch was a furious one, and one could imagine the strength. However, the young man was able to block the punch so easily. It was simply too unbelievable. How is this possible? Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon experienced it more clearly. He felt that his punch was like hitting cotton, and there was nowhere to exert force. Boring. The youth shook his head. With a slight shake of his arm, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon was forced back, and blood poured out of his mouth. This scene was undoubtedly even more shocking. With a slight shake of his arm, Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon vomited blood. They couldn't help but wonder if the youth was really at the Great Perfection 9 Heaven state. Let me make a statement. Although I am the Hall Master of the Law Enforcement Hall of the Dragon God Hall, I have nothing to do with you dragons. So, don't use the dragons to pressure me. With that, the youth turned around and looked at the depths of Fallen Valley, as if he was about to leave. Kill him. Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon roared. Boom! The youth in blood-red clothes and the others immediately released their auras and attacked the youth. Why can't you dragons change this bad habit? Do you think everyone has to submit to you? The young man frowned slightly. His feet moved, and his entire body suddenly became ethereal. He was like a floating ghost, and no one could catch a trace of him. Bang bang bang. Several breaths later, the young man stopped in his tracks. He was calm and composed, and there was not a single wound on his body. However, the various ancestral dragons were blasted flying successively while blood sprayed violently from their mouths, and they were in an extremely sorry state. I'll go. This is too strong. Madman was dumbfounded. Yeah. He is already so strong that there is no justice in this world. Qin Feiyang sighed. As for others, the longer one interacted with them, the clearer one would understand them. However, this young man was the exact opposite. The more time they spent together, the more unfathomable he became. I'm warning you. If you dare to attack again, don't blame me for not showing you any mercy. The young man glanced at the 8 ancestral dragons. His eyes were still unfocused, but the ancestral dragons felt as though they were being stared at by the god of death. They couldn't help but feel fear. Ancestral dragon Black Dragon clenched his fists. This feeling of fear and this attitude of contempt almost drove him crazy. To think that he, an ancestral dragon, would actually feel fear? To think that he, an ancestral dragon, actually dared to look down on him? This was a disgrace. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon suddenly roared, "Madman! Activate your blood demon domain." That's not good. Madman frowned. Why? You don't even listen to my orders. Are you trying to rebel? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon roared like a crazy beast. All right. Madman nodded helplessly and looked at the young man. You see, I was forced. If you want to find trouble later, go find my master. Don't look for me. The young man looked at Madman in shock. This kid was quite interesting. You gave in before we even started. Can't you be more promising? Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon was naturally furious when he heard Madman's words. Wasn't this embarrassing for him? Can being more promising be eaten? Madman didn't think much of it. He activated his blood demon domain and enveloped the surroundings. The young man's cultivation instantly fell to the half-step 9th heaven realm. I want to see how you can still be arrogant now. Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon smiled sinisterly as he activated his Supreme Tier God technique. A huge black dragon shadow charged towards the young man with a monstrous dragon aura. Sigh. I already told you not to attack. Why won't you listen? The young man shook his head and sighed. He raised his hand and pointed in the air. Heaven-breaking finger. As his voice fell, a terrifying god power roared out. The aura destroyed the surroundings. The blood demon domain was instantly shattered. What the hell? Madman's face was filled with shock. The blood demon domain was instantly shattered? This heaven-breaking finger, what rank was it? It was too terrifying. Qin Feiyang's heart was also filled with shock. The blood demon domain was a supreme tier god technique. To break open the blood demon domain, one had to at least have a heaven-defying god technique. In other words, this heaven-breaking finger was a heaven-defying god technique. But that wasn't right. The Nether King Hell had the power of laws. One couldn't activate a heaven-defying god technique or they would be killed by the power of laws. But there was no power of laws descending from the sky. In other words, this heaven-breaking finger wasn't a heaven-defying god technique. If it wasn't a heaven-defying god technique, then why was it able to shatter the blood demon domain? It was too strange. No. There was no need to describe it as strange. It was strange. This scene couldn't be explained with common sense. Chapter 2681. Boom! Sky-piercing finger was terrifying. With a wail, the black dragon shadow transformed by the ancestral dragon of the black dragon shattered in the void. Immediately after, sky-piercing finger hit ancestral dragon. Puff! Ancestral dragon spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew out like a kite with a broken string. The blood puppet's chest had also been punched out by the heaven-piercing finger, and blood was gushing out. Why is this happening? His cultivation is suppressed so much, but he can still break the blood demon domain and cause such serious injuries to Old Black? The ancestral dragons found it hard to accept this scene. Not to mention them, even Frenzy and Qin Feiyang didn't want to believe it. Was this real? Was this really not a dream? The rule power didn't descend, which proved that sky-piercing finger wasn't a heaven-defying technique. If it wasn't a heaven-defying technique, how could it break the blood demon domain? One had to know. After being suppressed by the blood demon domain, the young man's cultivation was only at the half-step 9th heaven realm. So, even if sky-piercing finger was a supreme technique, it was impossible to break the blood demon domain. That was unimaginable. The young man seemed to have done a very simple thing. His expression didn't change at all. Bang! When Ancestral Dragon fell, the young man took a step forward and instantly landed in front of Ancestral Dragon. Immediately after, the young man raised his foot and stepped on Ancestral Dragon's face. The force was great. Ancestral Dragon's face was deformed and his bones were broken. A deadly sense of danger rose in his heart. Ancestral Dragon panicked. If the young man used a little more force, his head would definitely explode and his divine soul would be shattered. Although he left his divine soul outside, he was unwilling to let it end like this. Because he, the dragons, had yet to find a heaven-defying treasure. Are you still arrogant? The young man yawned and said indifferently. You, Ancestral Dragon was embarrassed and angry. As a dignified Ancestral Dragon, when was he trampled under someone's foot like this? I'm asking you, are you still arrogant? The young man spoke again. His tone was as calm as ever, but in Ancestral Dragon's ears, it was like the knell of death. Not arrogant, not arrogant. Ancestral Dragon hurriedly waved his hand, unable to hide the fear in his heart. You're so despicable, I won't feel comfortable if I don't beat you. The young man shook his head. He finally let the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon off, and ignored Qin Feiyang and the others. He turned around and walked into the depths without looking back. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon got up and glared at the young man's back with resentment. I've never seen such a perverted person. Madman shook his head and exhaled. Don't say it. Previously, he was especially nervous, afraid that the young man would come looking for trouble with him. Yeah, everyone says that we're perverts, but he's the real pervert. Qin Feiyang mumbled. But before he could finish his sentence, Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon suddenly leaped in front of Qin Feiyang, raised his hand, and ruthlessly slapped Qin Feiyang's face. Pa! An ear-piercing slap could be heard. Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. Yi Zhong and the others were taken aback and quickly looked over as well. When they saw the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon glaring at Qin Feiyang in anger, when they saw the eye-catching palm print on Qin Feiyang's face and half of his face swollen, everyone was shocked. What are you doing? Madman reacted and immediately glared at the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon. Pa! The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon ruthlessly slapped Madman again and said angrily, as a disciple, how dare you scold your master? Who gave you the guts? Madman touched his burning face and his face turned gloomy as he stared at the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon. You still dare to glare at me? Killing intent suddenly appeared in the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon's eyes. Old Black, what are you doing? The white-clothed woman saw that the situation wasn't good and quickly went forward to pull the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon. Let go, I'm going to kill this traitorous disciple. The Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon roared. Who said that Madman can change the fate of us dragons? Who said that Madman can only be won over? Aren't you forcing him to rebel now? The white-clothed woman secretly said. When the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon heard this, his body shook and his mind became clear. What was he doing? Why did he do such a foolish thing? Old Black, you have to give me an explanation today. What did Li Boer do wrong? You want to slap him in front of everyone? Yi Zhong's gloomy voice sounded. The eyelids of the various Ancestral Dragon twitched. There was no need to look at Yi Zhong's expression. Just from his tone, they knew that this old man was angry. Yi Zhong was indeed very angry now. He couldn't beat the young man, so he vented his anger on his disciple? How could there be such an unreasonable thing? If the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon's slap was on his face, with his indifferent personality, he might not be so angry. But Qin Feiyang was different. First of all, Qin Feiyang was his disciple. Now that he was beaten for no reason, if he continued to remain silent, then how could he still have the face to be someone else's master? If this spread out in the future, he would be laughed at. His disciple was beaten and didn't even dare to make a sound. Secondly, Qin Feiyang was the old master's savior. If anything were to happen to Qin Feiyang, not to mention his own conscience, even the old man wouldn't let him off. So, if the Black Dragon Ancestral Dragon didn't give him a reasonable explanation, he wouldn't give up. Yi Zhong, this is a misunderstanding. He was just impulsive. It's not as complicated as you think. The woman in white quickly comforted Yi Zhong. Misunderstanding? Impulsive? It was fine if the woman in white didn't quibble, But this quibble made Yizhong even angrier. Old Yi were all on the same side. Why are you angry over such a small matter? The other ancestral dragons also spoke up. Such a small matter? Yizhong was so angry that he laughed and said, haven't you heard of the saying, don't hit people in the face? Yes, yes, yes. This is indeed Old Black's lack of consideration. But you have to understand. Old Black has been bullied so miserably. It's normal for him to be impulsive. Besides, Li Bu'er is in the wrong. The woman in white said. What did he do wrong? Yizhong said angrily. Do you still remember his attitude before? No matter what, he just didn't want to attack the young man. What does this mean? It means that his relationship with the young man is indeed not ordinary. In the face of such a situation, do you think Old Black won't be angry? After all, he's your disciple now. He should be of the same mind as us. The woman in white said. You don't know Li Bu'er at all. He didn't attack the young man because he didn't want to be ungrateful. Yizhong shouted. We don't know him, but you have to understand us. His attitude will definitely make us suspicious. The woman in white said. Yizhong was about to speak when a cold voice suddenly sounded. Your stupidity is beyond imagination. The person who spoke was Qin Feiyang. As his voice fell, a terrifying aura spread out. Yizhong's eyelids twitched and he quickly looked at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, Master, some things can be forgiven, but some things, no matter what, can't be forgiven. Ancestral Dragon and the others also looked at Qin Feiyang. When they saw Qin Feiyang's cold eyes, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. Sigh. Yizhong let out a low sigh and simply retreated to the side, no longer speaking. Needless to say, the Beast Emperor had a gloating look in his eyes. He couldn't wait for Qin Feiyang to fight with the ancestral dragons. Only then could he reap the benefits. The woman in white looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a smile, Li Bu, kneel. Qin Feiyang said and looked at Ancestral Dragon coldly. The ancestral dragons were stunned. Did he just hear him say the word, kneel? They were all wondering if they had heard wrongly, because in their opinion this was an extremely unbelievable thing. Even if Ancestral Dragon was in the wrong, how dare a mere human ask Ancestral Dragon to kneel? Kneel. Qin Feiyang said again. You heard it right. He really said that. The ancestral dragons raised their eyebrows and their eyes turned cold. Qin Feiyang ignored the gazes of the ancestral dragons and stared at Ancestral Dragon. I'll say it one last time, kneel. How dare you? Ancestral Dragon regretted being too impulsive, but when he saw Qin Feiyang's arrogant attitude, he was instantly enraged. Impudent? Haha. Then we'll show you how impudent we are. The one who spoke wasn't Qin Feiyang but Lunatic. Because at this moment, he was even angrier than Qin Feiyang. It had always been Lunatic bullying others, but no one dared to bully him. Not to mention slapping him in front of everyone. Master? Who did he think he was? Boom! The Blood Demon domain appeared and instantly enveloped Ancestral Dragon. The white-robed woman and the other ancestral dragons were beside Ancestral Dragon, and were also enveloped by the Blood Demon domain. In an instant, the cultivation of the 8 ancestral dragons fell to the half-step 9th heaven realm. At the same time, Qin Feiyang also took a step forward, and his murderous aura erupted. Li Bu'er, how dare you? The white-robed woman roared. Get lost. Qin Feiyang roared and pushed the white-robed woman back with one palm. Then he kicked Ancestral Dragon's lower abdomen. Roar! Ancestral Dragon's aura was shattered on the spot, and he fell to the ground not far away. Little bastard, are you going to rebel? The other ancestral dragons shouted angrily. However, Qin Feiyang turned a deaf ear to it, and walked step by step towards the Black Dragon Ancestor Dragon. His entire body was coiled with a substantial killing intent. I don't cause trouble, but I'm not afraid of trouble. Since you dare to provoke me, you have to pay the price. As soon as he finished speaking, Qin Feiyang stopped in front of Ancestral Dragon Black Dragon and fiercely kicked his head. He didn't show any mercy. The powerful kick sent Ancestral Dragon flying as if he was kicking a rubber ball. Ancestral Dragon's skull was instantly shattered and blood gushed out. Li Bu'er, don't go too far. The white-robed woman roared. However, Qin Feiyang still turned a deaf ear to him. He took another step forward and walked towards the ancestral black dragon. That cold gaze made people unable to help but feel afraid. Yizhong's heart also trembled, because it was the first time he saw this little guy so angry after being together for so long. Perhaps even a god wouldn't be able to stop him from venting his anger. You're tuning in to the Li Mei Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.